All right. So, gonna start this off. Anyone who's watching after the fact, if you missed the live stream, whatever, but you want to go ahead and take a look at, basically where this is coming from, go ahead and take a look at the link down in the description. It's a link to a channel called The Know, and or to a show that's called The Know, and they actually bring up some pretty good points there. And yeah, how Google's actually starting to get called out, and they're kind of losing control over the situation. So now that that's out of the way, this is going to be a short stream because I actually have some shit going on. So yeah, it's a thing. But yeah, Google losing traction. What I mean by Google is losing traction is it's losing control over its little narrative that it's been kind of getting up and running. You know, it's kind of starting to lose its power base now. And this can be seen in multiple ways. One, you know, with advertisers pulling out, it shows that Google isn't this omnipresent, all-powerful force. It still has to play by the rules of business. But at the same time, there's this thing that can make a company unpredictable. I've covered it before, and basically what it is it's kind of a moral bankruptcy. And I'm not talking about them losing their morals. I'm talking about them sitting there and saying, well, this is the moral thing to do, and them purposely doing that while knowing that it's going to cause them financial issues. So that is a thing. Another way that you're seeing it is you've got even small ass channels like mine sitting here and calling Google out on its bullshit, not really being afraid. And why is this? Because there's other ways of these people making money. And Google has forced them to take a look at those alternate ways. Because Google used to be, you know, the hand that fed them, so they wouldn't really say anything against them. But now Google's been attacking those very same people. Fucked up thing for Google is these are the very same people that are keeping them up and running as a company. The people who create content, you know, and I'm not talking about just on YouTube. I'm talking about just online in general. Because Google has been going out of its way to try to shoo those people to the side, saying, "Oh yeah, we'll still put your content up and that sort of thing. You can keep us running on that." But they're very much so showing a level of favoritism. And I'm going to go ahead and do something really annoying. I'm going to check and see if my stream's actually up and running, considering what happened yesterday. Very much so. Okay. There we are. It's working. But the thing is when you end up with a situation like that, you end up in a pretty dicey situation as far as Google is concerned. Because Google now has a choice. Either they actually take off the reins and just let people access the information that they want to access. Obviously, not actual illegal stuff, you know, nothing like, you know, child porn or anything like that. You know, obviously censor that stuff because it is illegal and they can be held kind of accountable for allowing people access to it. So I can understand that. However, them sitting there and saying, oh, well, this is a controversial topic, so we're going to not allow you to make any money off of something that you created that we agreed to host. See where there's a problem there. All Google is at this point, as far as YouTube is concerned, which YouTube is part of Google. YouTube is not the old YouTube that we know, well, that we knew from before. But as far as YouTube is concerned and how they're treating people on YouTube. I think they kind of misunderstand the dynamic. When people are creating something for you and you are making money off of it, and you are reliant on these people creating your content for you, maybe don't treat them like pieces of shit. Maybe don't sit there and say, yeah, I'm the one in charge. You do what I fucking say. That isn't how this fucking works. There are some YouTubers that'll sit there and buy that shit and roll over and go, oh, I'm so sorry, master. Well, guess what? It ain't happening. Not anymore. You've got a lot of these major YouTubers that are starting to say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to start putting my shit up on other stuff. Maybe I'm going to go ahead and start putting my shit up on Patreon a week before, and people who support me on Patreon get to see this a week before. That means people who paid for YouTube Red on your service are now going to see that there's even less value in your service, which, let's be honest, YouTube Red, no. I don't see anything good about that. Oh, we'll allow you to get rid of ads. There's a thing called ad block. Fuck yourself. But you've also got situations where YouTube is also thinking that it's beholden to these other large companies. YouTube is unwilling to actually, really stake its claim. Because they figure it this way, there's really not much competition out there. Well, we're starting to see a small bleed off. I mean, don't get me wrong, people still come to YouTube and that sort of thing for their major personalities. But once we start seeing these alternate platforms start kind of self-investing a little bit more, it's going to be interesting. Because then people are going to sit there and see that, oh, well, the personalities are migrating over to these other services as well. And they're even asking me to go over to these other services to go ahead and support them and that sort of thing. And it will eventually hit a flashpoint where the quote-unquote trendsetter personalities are going to head over to these alternate things, whether it be Twitch, which Twitch is, it's got its own fucking bullshit, but it also it doesn't typically lock you down as far as you being able to make money from donations from people. So that's one thing. Whereas YouTube is trying to absolutely shut down people's content based off of ideology, not off of what's legal and is illegal. And so it kind of makes sense because, they had people like Anita Sarkeesian come in and talk to them. And if you're curious about what I'm referencing there, I'm referencing when Anita Sarkeesian went in front of the UN and said, it's not just about what's illegal and legal. It's the day-to-day grind of, you're a liar, you suck. And it's all like, are you fucking kidding me? If you're a liar or if you suck, yeah, people are going to fucking call you on it. That doesn't mean that they're being trolls. It means they're being fucking honest with you. And if you've ever watched anything that Anita puts out and then done any level of cursory research, or if you even if you're just a person who regularly plays video games, you're gonna sit there and go, what? And you're gonna be able to call her out on her bullshit instantly if you have even the slightest idea about the subject matter. And so when gamers called her out on that, she decided to go crying, not to the US government, not to Google and YouTube, although she did cry to both of those at some point. But she went all the way up to the UN to bitch and complain about it, saying, oh, they're saying mean things to me on the internet. You need to stop them from doing that, even though I'm sitting there and calling them trash. And the thing is Google is kind of acting on that. And now we're starting to see kind of a backlash. We're starting to see these channels that makes Google a lot of money, sitting there and going, yeah, go ahead, nuke me from fucking orbit. You nuke me, you're nuking your own profits. You now just have one less draw to your fucking platform. People are starting to recognize now exactly how weak of a position Google actually has. We all view Google as this big, huge, omnipresent force. It's not. I'm not saying that they don't have influence. I'm not saying that. Hey, Holy Blade, how's it going? But I'm not saying that Google doesn't have influence. Only someone who's completely insane would even try to make that argument. I mean, they you know, they're the most used search engine out there. They can go, they can hide a lot of information if they so choose. But the thing is now people are starting to call them out, and people are going to these alternate things. You know, they're going to these alternate sites. They're specifically linking to them, and so Google can't say, oh, it doesn't exist. Not without going ahead and fucking around with domain name servers. And at that point, anyone who's in the tech field knows, yeah, they're not going to go that far, especially with how many of these alternate websites there are out there. They'd be chasing their tails all day. But the fact of the matter is now we're seeing a bunch of people calling out Google and putting out this information, and Google's having a real PR problem. And the thing is Google's known to be silent. So whenever Google says something, you know that they were pretty much forced to do it. Either that or they're virtue signaling. It's one of the two. Or they're announcing some service that they think is going to make them a lot of money. Yeah, it's one of those. It's going to happen. But the thing is if Google sits there and says, oh, no, we didn't do that, when there's evidence that's out there, that's confirmable evidence, well, yeah. Like, people are going to sit there and tend to trust people who've been sitting on a think tank for years. When that person goes, well, this is what ended up happening here. Especially when that person and the group that they are associated with have been critical of the very same entity that they were looking at in the past, you know, where they actually call this entity out. And they're all like, well, this entity used its influence to outs us. So that's kind of an issue. And we've seen that Google has an issue with that. When you go ahead and you take a look at that tech that ended up getting fired, he sat there and called out Google on its hiring and promotion processes, saying that they were biased, saying that Google as a company had become a very hostile work environment if you had a dissenting opinion. And the thing is you have to take a look at this stuff. You know, it's, you know, very rarely is a company going to come out and say, we're in charge of the world now, so fucking deal with it. That ain't going to fucking happen. What is going to happen is little tiny things. Like a certain person tends to, you know, call them out on one thing, you know, something completely fucking reasonable. And then they nuke the person. Or a website calls out said company. And all of a sudden you notice that every other website starts attacking them. And then you see, you know, monetary links between all these other entities. Google putting smear campaigns at the front of search results during an election. And then sitting there and saying, oh, well, you know, we refuse to put this stuff up there. We're going to push all this stuff down, when the counter to their narrative becomes prevalent. All of a sudden now they want to hide it. Using very loose terminology to define rules, leaving a lot of flexibility there, but only flexibility in one direction to bend said rules. It's shit like that. That's when those are the types of things that should get your ears to perk up. Those should be the red flags. A scene from a somewhat recent Call of Duty actually comes to mind, where the main antagonist goes up in front of the world and says, "You don't know how to solve problems. I do." Basically declaring war on the world. That's something that happens in video games. That's something that happens in movies. Rarely does it happen in real life. And usually, it's a short-lived thing. Now, politically and socially, Google might not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but they, by all means, are not suicidal morons. They know that if they come out and say, look, we're going to censor all this information, so fucking deal with it. They know for a fact that people would, in droves, stop using their shit. Overnight, they would go from this big billion-dollar company to struggling to pay the few employees that it has left overnight. So they're not going to do that. They're going to sit there and try to keep everything under the radar. They're going to use their little cheap tricks. Well, unfortunately for them, now they've got certain groups' attentions. Hackers, for one. Hackers are looking at them going, oh, really? And I'm talking about white and gray hat hackers. I'm not talking about the black hat hackers. Black hat hackers have always had Google in their sights. Why? Because so many people use their platform. So of course they're going to be all like, "Oh yeah, we want to be able to fuck with that." But white hats are sitting there going, wait a minute," because the thing is that's actually a very dangerous precedent for a company to set. That's the reason why so many white hat hackers were talking about how net neutrality is so important. And it is. It truly is. Net neutrality is the only way to have free flow of information. Because if you don't have net neutrality, then you'll get certain websites that maybe have an unpopular opinion, all of a sudden having, you know, a 56K dial-up modem worth the connection, making it so people with a high-speed internet connection have to sit there and wait for a half an hour to just load up the website. Unless it's a strictly text website. And honestly, how many people go to those sites anymore? People see a strictly text-based website, unless they're going to somewhere like Reddit or something like that, which isn't even solely text-based. I mean, you can have pictures and all that in it. But it's going to make it so people won't go to the site. Even if there's a plethora of information in said site. But here Google is, they sat there and tried to directly affect search results because they couldn't sit there and slow down the internet connections and all that sort of thing. That's why I'm kind of glad that Google Fiber kind of hit a brick wall. It actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I mean, during the time when it was hitting that brick wall, I was sitting there going, what the fuck? This is bullshit. But now I'm looking back, I'm all like, you know what? It was still bullshit. The wall that they hit was still bullshit. It just happened to serve a good purpose. Because imagine if Google had taken over the fiber connection of this country. Just imagine what would be going on right now. At that point, Google would be in charge of the internet, period, end of story, whether you were using their search engine or not. So this is one of those situations where, yes, it's very obvious that Google has been wanting power and so on and so forth. But I mean, honestly, what company doesn't? Let's just be fair here. What company doesn't want power and influence? But like I've said before, if your way of trying to gain power and influence is by the limiting or destruction of information that's inconvenient to you, or trying to destroy those who are bringing up said information, whether it be financially or socially or whatever, then at that point, yes, you are following in the path of a fucking dictator. That's a very authoritarian way of going about things. And from the actions and personalities of the head of not only Google, but also the separate figurehead for YouTube, it doesn't really come as much of a shock to me. But at the same time, it's not something that I'm going to stay quiet about. It's something I'm going to talk about. Like I said, doesn't matter who it is that's screwing up. If they're sitting there and they're screwing up in a big way, I'm going to call them on it. And that even means the very platform that I'm speaking on. Like right now, I am speaking on YouTube, which is owned by Google. But unfortunately for them, I don't rely on Google to pay my bills. I don't rely on them for me to make my money. I'm willing to go out and use other search engines to gather information. In fact, I would love to go ahead and do an experiment of using alternate search engines compared to Google on these quote-unquote controversial topics and see the difference of the placement of these websites. You shouldn't have to use 20 different qualifiers in your search argument to go ahead and get the information that you're looking for. Not unless it's a very specific piece of information. But yes, Google is losing its traction. People have seen that Google definitely does have a weakness. And so at this point, now Google's kind of limping a little bit. Those initial shots have been fired across the bow. They've got their major personalities on YouTube saying, look, if this shit doesn't change or if this shit gets any worse, I'm going to move to a maybe smaller and less effective platform, but one where I can actually do what I want to do, say what I want to say. Because a lot of these personalities, let's be honest, there's a big art in it. I mean, yeah, it comes down a lot to their personality, but they know how to accentuate certain aspects of their personality to make them likable. I mean, love them or hate them, PewDiePie does something right. You got Markipliers out there. Boogie2988. You've got all these personalities that are out there. And they put a lot of art behind their content. And the results you can't argue with. I mean, they get a lot of views. They are able to reach a lot of people very, very, very quickly and very easily. And they're going to be able to do that whether they're doing it on YouTube or on Twitch or VidMe. It doesn't matter. They're going to find those audiences. Or should I say the audiences are going to find them. And if they put something up saying, hey, I'm going over to this service, even if YouTube's, quick on the draw and removes it after like 2 days of it being up, goes, oh shit, even 1 day afterward, that information's going to be out there and it's going to spread like wildfire. To be perfectly honest, at this point, Google doesn't know what the hell it wants to do. I mean, yeah, it wants to make money. It's a company. So, of course, they want to make money. But at the same time, now they've got this kind of brand that they've built. And they don't want to go against their branding. But if they don't go against their branding, they're not going to be able to follow the money. They've painted themselves into a corner. This is the reason why I don't think any company whatsoever should have an ideological stance. Should never let that happen. So if you're a person that owns your own business or you're planning on owning your own business, do not put an ideology behind it unless you have a specialized company where having that ideology is going to benefit you at all times, regardless of the changing social climate. That's a very rare thing. Most companies should sit there and go, look, here's our rules. This is why we have them. That's it. Hey, Squeefles, what's up? I'm talking about Google and how it's losing traction and how people are smelling blood in the water. But when people are going to I'm actually going to be starting to stream on Twitch as well, and I might go ahead and start monetizing some of my stuff there. I won't try to monetize on YouTube because I'm not going to waste my fucking time. But I don't know if Twitch would deal with my shit for too incredibly long, because I haven't really gone ahead and taken a look at their rules and so on and so forth over on Twitch. I heard that they're a little draconian. But I'm thinking, yeah, as soon as I go ahead and start into that, then I'll go ahead and do it. No problems there. But I haven't even set anything up. I'm just thinking about it. I'm looking at alternate sites to go ahead and start uploading my shit to, as well as YouTube. I'll keep uploading to YouTube for the people that are here that don't go to those other sites, and they can go ahead and find me on the other sites once YouTube decides to actually take notice of me and fucking shut me down. I thought that's what was going on with the stream yesterday. With the first stream, I'm like, are you fucking serious? Are they sitting there and saying, oh yeah, you can't stream anymore? But then I went through and I looked and I'm like, yeah, I don't have any strikes or anything like that. My streaming standing is still in good standing. I don't know what's going on. Like, I think that was just a fucking glitch. But when people, hey, Squeefles, do you want to come in on this? I mean, yeah, you're pretty into the tech field, so I think you could go ahead and add some real shit to this. But all right, cool. All right, there's the link, man. But the thing is people have now gotten to the point where they're seeing that Google has its weaknesses, that it's not undefeatable, and Google doesn't like that. And quite frankly, I'm surprised that the video that I have linked in the description hasn't been demonetized or anything like that, or put into some sort of suspended state, you know, basically shadow banned or something like that. Because Google has this. Hey, what's up, man?
Sorry, did I interrupt? I'm kind of like autistic as usual. How's it going, dude?
Oh, not. It's going. It's going. I was just saying that people have now smelled the blood in the water, and Google isn't exactly a huge fan of that.
Oh well. Oh, there's echo. Sorry.
I'm trying to turn down my volume so I don't blast everyone out 3 times or something.
Just a heads up. I'm a little bit more energetic than usual due to the fact that I'm hungry and just woke up about an hour ago. So feel free to just say, "Shut the fuck up. Let me get something in." Okay.
Fair enough. Well, I'm bringing you in because you're kind of into a little more into the tech field lately than I am. Like me, I've been focusing a lot on social issues and so on and so forth because of the nature of my channel. And so as far as the tech field goes, I mean, the last time I actually specifically went out and looked tech shit up was like a week ago. And I know that that's the equivalent to not looking up anything for 4 years. So,
I mean, not really. Moore's Law hasn't played too much of an effect because of Intel's monopoly and whatnot. But yeah, time flies in the tech industry. You consistently have to keep up. When it comes to the whole Google thing, though, I will have to say it's really not looking good. I've seen more people just say, "You know what? I'm really tired of it, Google. I'm sick of it. Just lick my booty hole. I'm going to Twitch." And it's not just like, I know you could say like I've done it. I've tried other platforms. I've actually been out and found a lot more organic growth recently. Just speculation, don't know, on BitChute.
Which I have mine up on BitChute now. My videos are automatically getting ripped to my account on there.
One of the problems I see with BitChute is its whole thing that goes along with like it's supposed to be peer-to-peer. It doesn't appear to be that way.
Well, it's because they haven't put the blockchain in yet. I actually talked with one of the people on there.
Oh, okay. So they haven't even figured out their peer-to-peer servicing yet. Then why do they put the trackers and peers on it? That's the question.
Because what it is they're actually using a I don't want to say rootkit, but they're basically using a centralized and decentralized hybrid.
That's what I was thinking
right now.
So,
but that's because they haven't put in the blockchain yet. Once they put in the blockchain, once they implement that in, it'll be strictly peer-to-peer, but you can still access it through their website, and it'll access random nodes.
Okay, so basically right now they don't have the technology to keep the blockchain going. So what they're doing instead is what I can tell is they're seeding it out to 5 people through their main servers. So when you upload, you're going to upload it directly to them. And then as your more peers is what I'm assuming they're doing it off of, the more peers you have that are watching it, which the main server will feed it to them, and then they'll feed it to a bunch of other people. And I guess that could be a really good determining factor on what goes viral and whatnot.
Well, and also that's actually an excellent way of suggesting content to people. Because the thing is if it goes ahead and it keeps track of what you're watching and it's able to feed directly from you to other people in like a suggested thing, you know, so that way it's all like people in different spheres, eventually they're going to figure out, you know, who's interested in what. And it's still going to give them access to that alternate information from time to time.
Well, I mean,
without being like YouTube and it sitting there and just hammering you in the head with it.
Yeah, YouTube does this, already does that, but instead of like, I remember watching a video from like Imp Lemon, which he's been around, like, do you know Mr. Medicare? Are you familiar with him?
Uh, it, the name sounds familiar. But
He he's basically been around. He's a good little shit talker. He makes great content. I'm not writing Jim's dick here, but uh,
hey,
he's been
like I said,
around.
give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, he's a good little shit talker, and that's about it. He's funny, but he's retarded as hell sometimes. I hate the guy. But one of the things that I see with Imp Lemon is he's been around uh, of longer than I have. And what he said is, I remember old YouTube, probably back in 24, not 24, I'd say 2011 maybe, is when I actually uploaded my first, autistic, I'm a teenager, notice me video, right?
Yeah.
And I did that, right? So I remember back then it was literally you'll go on the site and you have to like look for the content you want. It wasn't based on, the you're gonna laugh, but the viral page on YouTube. We all know how shitty that is.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. No,
trending
there's
page.
nothing viral about that other
No.
than, if you're thinking, virus that causes cancer.
AKA what's the fucking that British guy who I can't remember his name. He's that irrelevant.
There's so many British people that are just fucking absolutely horrible. I mean, don't
Anyway,
get me
but
wrong. I mean, like as far as politics are concerned, it's all like, oh, well, it works over here, and then you look over there and it's not working, and you're all like, no, it's not, and they're all like, shut the fuck up, I'm British, I know what I'm talking about. Fuck you! I'm looking at it. It's not working.
I don't know, man. What all I'm saying is like, yes, there's blood in the water. People have the only reason why people have stuck to YouTube is because it's not profitable. The only reason why YouTube has made anything or has remained the main platform for your audience, or basically where you go to get stuff, is because YouTube bleeds Google money.
Yep.
And the way all the alternative platforms run, I don't know about Twitch. I don't know about BitChute. I can speculate on them, but honestly, as a content creator, I don't have anywhere to go. But I'm definitely not relying on BitChute or just I will never rely on this as an income. I think that's the main thing you need to take away from this.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But like I said, I mean, if people want to go ahead and support me, I've had several people personal messaging me saying, "Hey, you need to put up a Patreon or something," and I'm like, I don't want to.
I mean, if someone wants to throw you a couple extra bucks, no problem with it.
And
The
that's one
amount
thing
of
that I like
effort.
about Twitch is, yeah, they have the partner program. So, but you have to have so many people that are following you, uh, and then they have to go through and review it. And apparently, it's a big old process.
Yep, you can't be too edgy on Twitch and expect to get a partnership, but
Yeah,
that's just the
like
way
I
it
wouldn't be
works.
going for a partnership, but also at the same time, it's all like if I'm putting my stuff up there, I mean, I've heard that yeah, like with super extreme content, they'll go ahead and take it down. But like apparently, stuff like mine would actually fly underneath that bar.
And think about it like this. So I've seen on Twitch like there's just one game like Honey Select or H Games.
Yep.
You show barely a nipple, they'll beam you. But people like what's his name, Keemstar, what was that old Blog TV or something? It's all about the platform. The platform comes and goes. If people come for your content, if they come for your personality, and it doesn't matter if they would support it or not, you can always branch that past. And what I think a lot of people are struggling with is that they've made this their livelihood. I don't know. I mean, I've poked around in the skeptic community for a while. I've also poked around in the MGTOW community. I'm just kind of the guy who sits in the corner and just laughs at everybody bumping heads, stir the pot a little bit and enjoy the chaos.
Well, I think that's probably why you like my channel, is because it's all like, yeah, I'll bump heads with people, but I have a reason for it.
Yeah, no. And the other thing, one of the things that attracted me to your channel is you're not afraid to kind of like Terrence Popp. Terrence Popp has this thing he puts on. He's like, I don't know nothing about that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's showing a little bit of human, and that's really what attracted me to you. Plus, you have a lot of entertaining content. I just really wish. I honestly, I'm thinking like if you're gonna move to Twitch, which I actually had to go out and get a GPU for, and I'm just kind of like randomly testing the waters over there. I'm just thinking, I don't know if Twitch has their own Hangouts. You might have to get like OBS or something.
Well, I'm actually learning OBS right now. I just want to get familiar with it before I start implementing it. But I'm looking at OBS because, like we discussed before, I want to go ahead and I want to increase the quality of my content, and I think OBS is probably the best way for me to go as far as that goes, given my monetary limitations.
True, true. We all have those. We all have our financial struggle. We all do, and I think that's one of the reasons why I gravitate. Like V, what's his name? From the Skepto trademark sphere. Like it's spelled like V from Vendetta. Basically,
Yeah.
he's like a European gypsy, right?
Yeah.
And he literally just takes OBS and he just runs his mouth, and he has like what, almost like 100, 200, 300,000, 3,000 subscribers. It's
Yeah.
literally his personality will transcend. He's got 68,000.
And I was actually talking about that earlier on in the stream. I was talking about, people like PewDiePie, Boogie2988, and all that. It's all like, it doesn't matter what platform they move to, people will find them. And I think Google's starting to kind of recognize that, and they're starting to see these people going, look, if you don't cut the shit out, we're leaving. And that terrifies Google, because then YouTube fails, and yeah, they've made their money back from their purchase of YouTube. Let's not try to delude ourselves here.
No, they've not made their money back. It's been a net tax. It's been a net loss for a very long time, and I think that's one of the reasons why Google is, the biggest fucking tech giant, even bigger than Microsoft. And you don't see fucking Google getting sued because they're implementing their own browser on their own operating system on their own exclusive hardware and calling it a Chromebook.
Yeah.
But God forbid, they pre-install Microsoft Internet Explorer on your next shitty installation or your next reskin of Windows XP,
Yeah.
But Google has sat on this mound for too long, and I know the blood's been in the water for a very long time. You had the atheism movement, which look at TJ Kirk. He's literally moved back in with his parents. Unfortunately, it all happens. We always have to go back, but he's moved back into, I think, his parents, either that or he went like back to his hometown. Anyway, long story short, he gets about 10,000 a month on Patreon when he rode the bubble to the top when it comes to the YouTube ad revenue.
Yep.
Employment space. But he didn't know how to invest it correctly. So now he had to move. He's going to have to reorganize all of his financial situation. Look at Leafy. He blew the fuck up. He made good money for a while. And then, the content cop comes around. He refuses to change his content. He refuses to put a different spin on it. And then the adpocalypse comes. I'm sitting there in his comment section, make a Patreon. I hate your content. I hate you, but I will pay to feed you. I don't care. I'll throw you $5 a month, dude. Make a Patreon.
Like right now, people are wanting to feed the trolls quite literally. Like before, it was just a metaphoric thing, Before it was just a metaphoric thing. But the thing is everyone, it's all like you got a lot of these people that are very disconnected from reality, and they have one common thing. They always view trolls as a bad thing. Whereas the rest of us, and let's be honest, people, the rest of us love to see trolls in action. We don't necessarily love to be on the receiving end of it.
Well, no, what it is,
but the thing is we love to see these trolls in action because it actually sparks that conversation.
Not even that, dude. It's just chaos. We're naturally, and after a long time of certainty, humans have a tendency to be attracted to chaos, and that's all it is. Trolls are little shit talkers. Some of them are, oof, let's play. Yeah, I can play Roblox in 400,000 frames per second. And then you have like the legitimate ones who can simultaneously make you look like an idiot and prove a goddamn point. It creates chaos. And right now it's because we're in a paradigm shift. We're moving away from the PC stuff. Look at iDubbbz, for example.
Mm-hmm.
iDubbbz can put out a video once a month and he's guaranteed at least 1 million views, no matter what he uploads.
And for people who don't understand the significance of that, the YouTube logarithm, the way that it is right now, if you're not continuously putting out content, you drop significantly in relevancy.
Yeah,
and they won't suggest your videos and that sort of thing. So at that point, you only get people that are subscribed to you and that sort of thing. So like when I go for those stints where I can't upload stuff, it actually actively hurts my channel.
Yeah, if you're not active like every fucking day, eventually YouTube's algorithms will just say, you know what, you're not pulling clicks, you're not making us any money. We're broke.
We're not going to suggest your channel.
Exactly. And it's come to the point to where I don't even enjoy making the response videos where I just take the piss out of everyone. I don't. It's like, why spend 100 hours on something? Or spend 4 hours, because it literally, when I make a response video, I've got it down to a science. 4 hours at bare bones.
Yep.
You know, I mean, at full value. Like one of them took me about 6, but that was because I was pulling like a whole library of retarded clips to, make it sound ridiculous. But yeah, 4 hours is about how much it takes. But I'm not going to spend 4 hours for 4 views that each last like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
and a lot of people have been wondering why I don't do a whole lot of editing and that sort of thing. It's for 2 reasons. One, it's because if I'm sitting there and I'm doing a whole lot of editing, I've noticed that videos that feel edited, it actually is an art in and of itself, because depending on how you edit your videos can come off as sterile. And I really don't want that. I want my videos to continue to come off as organic. Like the closest thing I get to editing videos is pausing and then starting up the recording a couple minutes later. Like if there's something going on, like there's too much noise or whatever.
Yeah, it is an art form. That's one of the reasons why I fancy YouTube poop. You remember the diabetes guy?
Which one? There were like 6.
The one guy who's like Welford something, and everybody like they would chop up that one like Liberty Mutual commercial and to like make him say just retarded shit.
Oh yeah.
That's a freaking like art form.
Even Family Guy got in on that. Like it became such a big thing.
Yeah, I'm Wilford Bentley, and I like to bite the head off of rats. I like screaming. I like pooping down chimneys. He turns around, screams in the chimney, "Hey kids, hold open your stockings!"
Yeah, just shit like that. Yeah, it's. And the thing is, people find that entertaining. But YouTube, at this point, is becoming kind of a nanny site, and so they don't want you to enjoy that shit.
It's not even that. It's not even like some people will point to like the Spider-Man and Elsa like borderline abortion porn. It's not even that, dude. Okay, I have something to say on that in a second. Let me just continue with this thought. We'll worry about how there's a lack of parenting and you wonder why your kids are screaming anti-Semitic shit as a joke. Just gonna put that out there. If your kids are saying a lot of curse words, be a parent. Don't let the internet raise your kids. Doesn't ever turn out well.
Well, it's the same thing as these parents who sit their kids down in front of the TV. It's all like, okay, so you're having your
at least the television.
Wonder why your kid doesn't have any of the same values as you.
Yeah, at least the television. Okay, so this is what I see. Like, parents are not raising their kids because God forbid they both have a job because the economy's shit, or someone made a stupid decision and it pissed off someone else and it wouldn't work out. You know, just alluding to the fucking family court situation we have. But kids are being raised by television back then, right? Now it's the internet. And what I think YouTube is doing is, you notice a family sitcom, right? The reason why The Simpsons was so popular is because it literally shat on the culture back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now you look at The Simpsons, it is the culture.
Yep.
So what happened is YouTube back then, when it was YouTube poops, when you were conditioned to pursue the most retarded shit just for enjoyment, right? You got the film cow of the era. You had just random crap you just find and you look at it like, what the fuck is this? And you show it to all your friends. Like, I don't know what this is. This is amazing.
Yeah,
why is it amazing?
And then you had the random cat videos and all that sort of shit. Just all this nonsensical crap. It was there for pure enjoyment.
Yeah, and then YouTube starts changing over the years, and I guess I never really noticed it because I don't know if it's I didn't use YouTube, I wasn't interested, I guess I didn't pay attention. Either that or it came so goddamn slow I didn't even notice.
See, I've been using YouTube pretty much since it came out. You know, I've been on YouTube for a long time. I've watched it go through its changes. And every time there was a major change that was coming down the pipeline, I'm like, no! Because I saw the direction it was heading in. I'm all like, no, stop. Just let it organically grow, you dumbasses. So like you have found the holy grail of the internet. You know? Because every company wants to go ahead, make money off of their service that they're offering, but put in no work of their own. That is the holy grail of any business. Bare minimum upkeep costs while you have maximum
all you have to do
productivity.
All you have to do is just make sure that the servers stay up, and you know, you make sure the platform is economically feasible for people in their basements to do.
Yeah.
When you have
and old YouTube was like, exactly that.
Yeah. You didn't get paid back then, but it was just a pastime. So
but then here comes Google through there, and they made their big purchase. And right after Google made their big purchase, all of a sudden you had massive changes. You had huge changes to the logarithms. You had all these new fucking rules and shit that have gone in. And it's all like, are you fucking kidding me? And those rules just happened to run counter to the culture that YouTube had built.
And unfortunately, it's literally like right now, everyone can smell the dying fart. You know,
yeah.
the gas of the old geezer who's just about to kick it. That's literally what Google is right now.
I forget where it was, but on the dark web, there's actually a site. But the thing is there's a site there that actually has all of these basically old money people, you know, like the motherfucker that owns, you know, Fox News and several other major media outlets like the New York Times and all that. One motherfucker owns all those.
It happens, dude. That's
But cool. The thing is there's actually a website. He's actually on that website, and there's a thing there where they're hoping that he's on a list of people that we hope to quote unquote mourn in 2018.
I don't know.
Like,
I'm gonna have to.
There's actually a site out there like that, and almost all of them are connected to these major fucking companies that have been actively fucking up, that have been getting backlash from people. I sat there and I looked through that list and I'm like, holy fuck. I'm all like, damn, you know, because the thing is these people don't realize that times have completely fucking changed, and they need to kind of get rid of that stranglehold, because that's the one thing that will fucking make people want you to, you know, drink bleach or whatever. And they're not quite getting it. And then, you know, people are sitting there and going, well, the head of YouTube and the head of Google aren't all that old. It's all like, yeah, they're not. But the thing is the people that they answer to are.
Well,
Period.
I mean, I'm gonna have to say, like, on that note, I'm gonna have to request pics or it didn't happen. You're gonna have to like give me some links or something, some onions. But it's literally like it's corporatism, right? So
Yeah.
monopolies don't exist.
Like when you're saying pics or it didn't happen, are you talking about the website? Because like I said, I don't really go onto the dark web all that much anymore.
No,
it's a little too dark even for me. But as far as the people that they answer to, at that point, it's just look at, you know, who contributes to YouTube. Look at who contributes to Google.
I bet you
got some young people in there, don't get me wrong, but they tend to be the activist types. But as far as the older ones, you know, they're old. Like, they make dust look young.
I don't know, man. Like,
but also at the same time, it's all like I was saying before, no company at any point should sit there and be based off of an ideology, unless it specifically caters to said ideology. So like a Christian bookstore, okay. You know, if they're selling Christian books, fine. You know, at that point, they're catering to the people that they want to cater to. Fair enough. But a company like Google, well, that's when it becomes a big problem, because they're wanting to cater to everyone. And how are they trying to cater to everyone? To let only a small minority speak.
I don't think it's particularly that. Let me steer back into what I was trying to say earlier. Back to the whole kids being raised by television. Yeah. Television was clean until The Simpsons. You weren't allowed to watch The Simpsons because it was a bad, horrible show.
So of course you watched The Simpsons.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons, dude. I really wasn't.
Was I, and I watched every episode.
Yep, I still did, even with Family Guy. Same thing, dude.
Yep, Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park, all of it. Yep.
I loved it, but that was I didn't get to watch any of it till Netflix came around, or I actually, you know, started looking on the internet and living through the internet. Unfortunately,
it's like nature, and nature finds a way. You know,
exactly.
It's just one of those things. And now that we have the internet, good luck. Parental block, most kids can get past that in half a second.
I remember using UltraSurf, which was coded for Koreans, to do mischievous things while my dad had a filter on it.
Yeah.
So anyway, but like what I'm saying is, like, YouTube has evolved. If you look at anywhere on the site, any popular YouTuber, you'll see 3 templates for every style of content. It's literally like you'll have the family sitcom, you'll have the variety show, and then you'll have the late night comedic, not too edgy, but, you know, just riding the line of edgy.
Yeah, but not exactly being the most
not cutting itself on surgical steel. You know, not cutting itself on surgical steel kind of edge.
Yeah, exactly. It's rough around the edges, and that's why you like it.
All right, so yeah, it's really it. So you got the 3 types, right? So once you find those 3 types, so let's say I wanted to make a comedy channel, right? Well, then there's 3 types of comedy channel you can be. You could be a leafy, where you say something, then backpedal later to avoid any backlash. You could
to avoid the legal ramifications.
Exactly. Or to lose advertisement, which that's not a problem anymore. Nobody's getting paid. But
right. Like even the quote unquote safe channels are sitting there going, yeah, we're getting hit by this.
No, unless you're Spider-Man and Elsa, you're not getting paid. It's just the way it is. Unless you're catering to like 2-year-olds or my 5-year-old autistic cousin who watches Minecraft 24/7. Yeah, you're not getting paid.
Yeah, and then also at the same time, you've got your oddities like Boogie and all that, but they're already well established. You know, their fans aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, they can say, "Hey guys, really feeling the burn here. You mind helping me out? Pitch me $1 here's my Patreon."
And no one's really going to give them too hard of a time for it. But also here's the what I consider ironic part about that. the people that are well established and well liked are the ones who don't do that, even if they do need it.
They can't be edgy.
They won't do it unless it's a last ditch effort thing. Like they have zero other choice. They will exhaust every other resource trying to avoid doing it.
Yep, I think that's very commendable of them, but you also got to remember a little bit of echo, dude.
Oh, sorry.
All right. You got to remember, like, Boogie's not edgy. Yeah, he bows to the left a lot. Big whoop. That's how he gets paid. He gets paid through YouTube. And that's not a problem.
It's because they sat there and they almost completely demonetized that one edgy part of his.
No more Francis videos.
Yeah, exactly. They're all like, oh, yeah, Francis videos, we can't have that. It's all like, really? Because the thing is that's what actually pulled me to Boogie's channel, was his Francis videos. And I know that a lot of his fans have that same mentality. I mean, look on his comment section.
That's what hit me when I saw his Mountain Dew, who stole my Mountain Dew thing.
See, mine was when he was going off on the Wii, I believe it was.
It's just like, if you want to, here's the thing. You got the 3 cookie cutter outlets, and then you got, each one has 3. You can be so let's say you went the comedian route or you went the gaming channel route. You could be a little edgy. You could play that risque business. You could be hopping on the train of the next popular game. You could join one of these communities, or there's basically like 3 templates.
Yeah.
You can be leafy, you can be no fuckers, or you can be pyrocynical. Either way, you're talking about Jake Paul. It's just how you make money. It's it. Yeah. And the funny thing is now compare that to what's it called? Any TV show when TV was relevant, any sitcom, you had the late night cartoon, you had the edgy comedian. It's literally exactly what you're getting on YouTube. The funny thing is, all they're doing is pulling the money away when you fuck up.
Yep.
And you'll fit this mold. People, if you look at it, what's the difference between pyrocynical? I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I've watched some of Pyro's stuff, yeah.
Is there any real difference between pyrocynical and no fuckers at this point?
Not really, no. And that's what I really think is killing YouTube is the forced homogenization.
Are you watching Family Values or the Brady Bunch?
Neither.
Exactly. It's literally the Brady Bunch is one, and there's no individuality. There's no creativity. And what's sad, though, is iDubbbz, Max Mofo, those were the last of their kind on YouTube. When YouTube inevitably shoots itself in the dick and bleeds out, I will be happy, and I will be around. And I'm even on YouTube while this transition isn't happening. It's going on. I'm going to be doing what I do best, which is just talking shit to people, having a good laugh, and entertaining people. And that's literally all I've always wanted to do. And hell, if I can afford, someone throws me a tip like they did to give me a new graphics card, so be it, dude. I'm not going to say no. I'll just create more. I'll put more effort into it. Yeah. I'll put better gameplay. I'll play more games while I, shit on people in the background. I mean, I don't want it to be income. It would be nice, but I want to speak my mind. I want to be as completely edgy as physically possible. I want to ride that line of, razor blades and bleach.
And actually, I have one thing to say on that. It's kind of interesting. YouTube sat there and we had the adpocalypse happen and that sort of thing. And so these edgelords ended up finding a way to continue to make their money and that sort of thing, right?
Because the free market exists.
Have that. YouTube can't have that, right? They can't be all like,
hold on, wait, back up.
And not make us money because we're keeping you from making money, therefore keeping us from making money.
I'd like to
But
actually hold on.
we're going to go ahead and just hide your shit back into the back corners. So that way you can't even make money off of the stuff that you make, period. Which I find stupid.
What
YouTube's killing itself with that.
The limited state thing is what you're referring to, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When it comes to the limited state stuff, the only videos I've seen so far, and I know it's going to come for us all, you know, they didn't come for the Polish or blah blah blah, I didn't, you know, all that other crap.
Yeah.
That whole saying they didn't come for me, but eventually they will. I understand that. But the only things I've seen on that are just retarded. They're really, I mean, when I say right leaning, I mean pretty right leaning, or
like
they're
so
intellectual
that they're leaning to the left.
Not even like alt-right. I'm not a communist, I'm a national socialist. Not those fucking gender studies degrees kind. I'm talking about, like, there was one on race and IQ. Didn't watch it, saw that it happened, and I asked for the original content creator so I could subscribe to him, because apparently he's saying something that you're not allowed to say, and I think I need to listen to him.
Yep.
That's literally, he's gotten more subs off of that than I could imagine. But in reality, YouTube hasn't been doing this for a while. Remember YouTube Red?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
YouTube Red was a thing. I think YouTube has tried. I really do. But they've been towing this ideological bullshit for too long. If they don't, it's over. It's done. They've taken too much money. You know, they've been in the pockets of too many people, right? They've rid the coattails of Hillary Clinton. You know, they've got their own issues, but I think they have at least attempted to use lube when they're fucking us. Think about it like this. They had YouTube Red, which was basically you pay a certain subscription fee like Netflix, and part of that money will go to your content creator. Exactly like Netflix. They have their Netflix original series. You pay $20 a month. That money goes in a pool and then pays for more content, whether it's shit or not.
Yeah. And you see, the problem that I have with that is it's all like, no, this money isn't going to support the YouTubers that I want it to support. It's going to go towards the YouTubers that you want it to support.
That's true.
So
as
even
well.
if I go ahead and get this YouTube Red, I am not guaranteeing that my favorite YouTubers are going to get one red cent of that. Because if you don't like them, then they don't get the money. It doesn't matter if I like them or not. It doesn't matter if they're the reason why I got YouTube Red.
So hold on one second. With YouTube Red, all of my revenue is from YouTube Red. All of it is. And I don't even monetize my shit anymore. There's not an ad in sight. All of that money is from a couple people who bought into YouTube Red, and that's the only money I've ever saw. If I go back to my lifetime statistics real quick, it's legitimately all, or hold on, let me check. Anyway, but they've tried Super Chat. They've been towing the line. They couldn't do it. So they had to keep towing the line, and eventually you get to this point to where you can't even exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they've tried to use lube while they're fucking us. Just maybe a warning shot, maybe a warning thrust. But I don't, you know, at least a heads up, hey, bite the pillow, motherfucker. But I really don't think that, I personally think that they tried to warn us. They've tried to help us out on a transition a little bit. But I really understand that once YouTube falls to the wayside, whatever comes in its place will be, you know, it'll make video sharing great again, and then it'll go to shit. The technology is there when you talk about blockchain and peer-to-peer networking, instead of hosting it in a supermassive server farm, costing Google, of all people, to hemorrhage money. There's some other way to do it. Mm-hmm. The problem is that YouTube, it's just right now, it's so easy. It's so convenient. It's the cookie cutter. It's the
thing
only place where you can get eyeballs.
Yeah, it's the place of familiarity. It's a household name.
Exactly.
Everyone knows what YouTube is, but if you talk to someone about something like VidMe or Dailymotion, like Dailymotion, a lot of people think of Dailymotion, they're all like, yeah, that's where I can go and watch women with big tits jiggle them around for a bit. You know,
so
it's all like, it's basically a shittier Pornhub. You know,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Dude,
I mean, let's be honest, dude. Like every time I've ended up on Dailymotion organically, it's been because of big tits. Like I'll openly admit this.
Hey man, we all got to get the poison out somehow,
right?
But this is I'm showing you my statistics. Half of my majority of my revenue.
Go ahead and hit share to all, so that way whenever I talk, it doesn't pop off the thing.
Okay, hold on. I think you have to do that.
Let's see.
Should say present to everyone.
There we go. I'll keep it up that way. All right, cool.
Honestly, I don't care. I don't make shit off this anyway. But over the full time I've been on YouTube, it's about since like April 2017, right? Is that it? That can't be right. No.
Yeah, no. I guarantee you've been on
November 6th, 2016, when I was still smoking hella weed and had all kind of daddy issues. But I've only made $1 in total out of all the hours I've made. And I'd like to say thank you to the guys who actually did support me for a while and helped me out. I appreciate it. My boy Cyanide got me a new graphics card, so he helped pitch in. But when it comes to YouTube Red, it's literally 50% of my ad revenue. And that's just because someone out there had YouTube Red, no idea how, no idea who it is, don't really care, but I kept them engaged long enough to make like 6 cents off of one of my most popular videos I since deleted.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where when you go ahead and you do that, it's like I understand, the idea of YouTube Red. I get it. I kind of understood it. And I mean, it was also kind of that thing of, like you were saying, they were trying to sit there and warn us and all that. Well, the issue is them sitting there and trying to warn us. It's all like, how about instead of just sitting there and warning us, how about actively taking some action? Well, YouTube Red was the action that they took.
And then they went
because they figured if everyone bought YouTube Red, then they wouldn't need the advertisers.
Then they tried. That didn't work. Nobody bought into it. They didn't sell it right. They didn't package it right. And
and it came down to lack of clear communication. And I think that's one of Google's biggest weaknesses is their lack of communication, ironically enough. A communication company not being able to communicate. What the fuck?
So most people, when they came out and they started bitching about like their whole channel, they got notification that, hey, look, we're not putting ads on your shit. Sorry. That mass demonetization where not only like were the edgy, like I woke up one day, all of my videos were not advertiser friendly. Instead of it being green and never seeing an ad, I gave props to YouTube. That's transparency. That's a step in the right fucking direction. I want to know that if I upload something edgy, I can expect, I'm not going to get any social reach and I'm definitely not going to make any money off of it. I want to know. That's transparency.
Yeah,
where the fuck is that? So,
and the thing is when you go ahead and you take a look at their actual like standards, quote unquote, it's so enigmatic. Like it's all like, all right, so you're saying if something is controversial, well, just about anything can be made to be controversial.
All it takes is some perpetually offended faggot with the ability to pump out like 100 words per second. Next thing you know, you've got a whole fucking shitstorm.
Yeah, it's all like, oh, well, we're reviewing this egg beater. Oh, well, that has the word beater in it, and so that's going to be offensive to any woman who's ever been beaten by a husband. It's all like, fuck you.
And the funny thing is,
like, maybe he wouldn't have beaten you if you had actually watched a few egg beater fucking review videos so you can make some decent fucking food, cunt.
Oh,
Oh,
there's the
sorry.
comedic relief. Oh, all I'm saying is it's uncertain. It's just one of the reasons why is server farms are extremely hard to run. It's extremely hard to moderate all the people who are uploading every day.
And I
It's
understand that. I get that. I sympathize. I mean, people are like, well, why don't they just hire more people? Because they're a business and they have to make money. And right now they're hemorrhaging money. So the money's not there to hire new people. People
think
have
about
to
it.
eat.
Think about it like this. You can try to moderate. Eventually, there's going to be enough people to where you're gonna have to hire some people. That's gonna cost hella money. Or what you can do is you can just take down the strictly illegal shit, like the people who are using it to sell firearms or using it to sell illegal substances or using it for terrorism. Just leave it at that. If some faggot on the internet likes calling other people a faggot on the internet, like I do, immediately just leave him alone, because eventually if you come for him, next thing you know, somebody who doesn't quite use a strong language but has some form of imagery to it,
It's
then
going to get caught up
what
in it.
about them? Yeah, you're going to get caught up in it too. And
And the thing
eventually
is these logarithms only show as much leniency as what's programmed into them. And the thing is if you make the logarithm too long, it takes too long to run and it starts bogging down the entire system, lowering your quality, lowering your viewer rate, and all of a sudden now you got another whole issue on your problem list.
and if you use a more complex algorithm, you're going to need more computing power, which is going to cost more. Or you're going to have to go out and hire a bunch of humans. Then you're going to have to correct for human error. It happens. One of these things
I put it
is
this way: whenever someone sits there and brings up computational power and all that sort of thing, I go ahead and I say this. I'm like, if I'm sitting there and I'm thinking in terms of computational power and is it worth it for what you're using it for? Here's a good standard that I fucking have, because it kind of goes along with the times and it constantly changes along with the times. And that is, if I was to use that same level of computational power to mine Bitcoins, would I make more or less money on average? Period. I think that's a pretty great way of looking at it. But that's also the MMO player in me. Because when I would sit there and I'm all like, all right, this item takes all of this stuff to go ahead and make. It's not necessarily going to make me overpowered. I then went ahead and took a look at if I was to sell all the component parts versus selling the finished product. I'm like, whatever's going to make me more money, I'm going to do that.
Exactly. But when you get into this realm, and I'm actually going to go ahead and dip out because I think dinner's ready, and I'm actually hitting that I'm hungry wall, so my brain's not working at 100%.
Fair enough.
But it's really, here's any advice to any like quote unquote YouTuber or whatever platform. If you like making video content, if you're good at it, if you have a personality that people like, if you have some skill that, has something beyond, if you have something about you, people will gravitate towards you. It happens naturally.
Yeah.
How you get it out to the masses changes through time. Will you be able to make money from it? Do you even want to? The main thing is do what you love, and just, it's all about you, I guess. It is what the original idea of YouTube was. People were doing what they loved. They were doing it for them, for themselves, and you everywhere can do it too. Unfortunately, you can't make money on YouTube. You can't make money on Google AdSense or AdWords. You can't do these things.
Yeah. You have to have such a gravitation about you that people are willing to let their money gravitate towards you through shit like Patreon and all that sort of thing. That's pretty much the way that the vast majority of YouTubers make money. Either that, or they're so well established they can actually sell, and their brand is so well known or so popular that they can sell their own products. Like, for example, Mark Dice. Just for an example, because Mark Dice is definitely a little bit of a shit poster. Let's be honest. He's got
He enjoys Yeah, he enjoys reveling in other people's stupid decisions. That's just called being an asshole. You don't have to be a shit poster for that. But
But the thing is, I mean, he's popular enough where he can sell his own merchandise and he can make a living off of that. Fuck YouTube ad revenue.
that's what Teespring
That's
is.
chump change for him. And the thing is that's pretty much the thing. You have to be able to make your own brand recognizable to people and to where they're going to want to, you know, to support you, for one. I mean, that's one of the biggest steps. But then also at the same time, where if you sit there and you sell a t-shirt, like with maybe a quote that you said on it, or just your brand on it, whatever, that's when you can go ahead and make money off of it. But it takes a while to get to that point. A lot of people think that they can just jump on, make money, and it's super fucking easy. No, actually, it's not. At that point, you are starting up your own business that's very unstable.
It is very, I mean, the effort that I put in has just, like, anyway, I want to leave it on a positive note. If you want to do YouTube, give it a shot. Just learn how to edit. Learn what personality you want to put out there. And just remember, above all else, things change, times change, ways you're going to make money will change. And if you can put out some form of consistency, like mine is, I like to focus it around my personality. That's what my channel is.
Same here.
Yeah, we both have something about us. I mean, look at, you know, again,
well, people like how I can go from laughing to rage in 0.5 seconds. People love that about me.
That's just testosterone, my dude. That's all that is.
And so it's just all like, yeah, okay, fair enough, fair enough. I mean, hell, people when YouTube was really first getting up were saying that I needed to start a YouTube channel and start a gaming channel so people could watch me rage at it. And I was sitting there, I'm like, no one's going to fucking watch that. And then all of a sudden I saw Rage Quit by Rooster Teeth. And I'm like, motherfucker. These motherfuckers were right.
People literally, there was one person who actually supported me on Patreon for a while. It's literally just, I'm a piece of shit to her. But, you know, I don't understand. She still pays me, you know.
Well, you know, there are people that will daily pay people to be pieces of shit to them. Yeah, let's leave it at that.
Yeah, I didn't mean that literally. I'm just saying. Anyway,
yeah, but the thing is also at the same time, if you have good points, like a lot of people have brought this up, you know, it's all like, yeah, I'm an asshole. I admit this. But the thing is I'm an asshole with a point. And the thing is when I'm an asshole about something, it's usually for a reason. I'm not just being an asshole to be an asshole. And people like that sort of thing.
I don't know, dude.
Because the assholes tend to be most honest. Because they don't give a fuck what you think. They don't give a fuck about being perceived as an asshole. They're already an asshole. How worse can it get? You know? So at that point, they're all like, fuck it. I'm just going to say what I'm thinking.
I don't know, man. I just like being an asshole because being an asshole is just so much better than being a normie.
Right? So, like, I would rather someone sit there and notice me and listen to what I'm saying, hate what I'm saying, but not be able to argue against it, than me sit there and just kind of ghost through life and get absolutely nothing done with my life. And all I can sit there and say at the end of it is, I existed. Fuck that. I'm pretty sure no one's happy with that thought. Even the most undriven person on the planet is unhappy with that thought.
All right, well, I got to go ahead and dip out, my dude. I'm just saying, like, if you want to start a YouTube channel, I mean, more power to you. Something will come along that will replace it. And I mean, I really enjoy coming on. I thank you, my dude. But like, I think the main takeaway from this is shit happens. If you
want to do it, take a shot at it.
Shit happens.
First thing that happens, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, shit happens. Just enjoy it while you're doing it. Don't become some drama alert fucking faggot. Just enjoy your life and do what you do best. If that's YouTube, go right ahead. I'm going to be right here with you. Anyway, I got to go. I appreciate it, my man, Ryu.
Have a good one. Always nice having you on, man.
Anyway, nice seeing you again, man.
Yep.
I'm so tired. I'm sorry, dude.
Oh, it's fine, dude. I like me. I'm worn out from yesterday because I got fucking wasted. because yesterday was my birthday. So
Oh, well, shit, I'm turning 21. We can have a drink together on a drunk stream for sure.
for sure, man.
Cue
I'm
the
all into it.
alcoholism.
I don't know if it'll be alcohol or if it'll be something else, but I'll be intoxicated nonetheless.
All right. Shoot me up on DM or whatever. I don't know if you have a Discord, but I don't really check my YouTube messages. It's
I do
idle,
have a
so.
Discord. Go ahead and send me the link to your Discord. Just personal message it to me on here on YouTube.
All right. I'll see you
go
then,
ahead.
man.
All right. Have a good one, man.
You too.
But yeah, like he was saying, you know, people tend to follow personalities. And I think that is a very important aspect of doing something on YouTube or on Twitch or something like that. You have to kind of know yourself, and not really be afraid to be yourself, but also at the same time, sometimes maybe be a little over the top, you know, with your personality. I mean, that's also another thing that people do. You know, they'll take something about themselves, they'll notice something about themselves, and then they'll blow it up larger than life. And that is definitely a thing that can be done. In fact, you see a lot of Let's Players doing that sort of stuff. Like, a lot of their reactions are very over the top, and you're like, oh, this can't be real. Well, part of it isn't, but it's just they're taking their reaction and they're making it a little bit bigger, just to make it a little more interesting for the person who's watching, which isn't a bad thing in and of itself. You know, because, I mean, if you're sitting there, you're doing YouTube or something like that, you are an entertainer. People are coming you for some level of entertainment. Yeah, they might be coming for information, but if you're sitting there in that kind of monotone type of thing, it's absolutely horrendous. It's terrible, because then you're making the information dry, not interesting. It's not going to stick, and people really aren't going to come back at that point, because there are people out there that will go ahead and give out that information in a little bit more of an entertaining manner, whether it be by adding a little bit of comedy into it or being over the top. Let's go ahead and take one person, for example, like Alex Jones. You know, he's very over the top and that sort of thing. People watch him for the entertainment value, not necessarily for information. People who even think that he's 100% bullshitting at all times will sit there and watch him because they enjoy it, you know, because his personality is that big, overblown, over the top personality. Fair enough. You know, he's very loud, he's very boisterous and that sort of thing. So fair enough. And the thing is he's always going to have that following, you know, no matter where he goes, the people will find him. People sniff out good entertainment. They sniff out good quality return on their time spent. Because the thing is if you're going to start up a YouTube channel, consider it this way. These people are spending their time on watching your content. So is your content worth their time? That's the biggest thing. So like with me, I hate it whenever I have those long pauses. You notice that I don't typically have super long pauses. I may have a couple of seconds, but that's about it. I'm constantly talking. I'm constantly trying to entertain. When I'm trying to gather my thoughts, I'm also talking about some little sub thing, and I'll go off on a little tangent there. Once I've gathered my thoughts, I'll round back around to where my thoughts are again. The reason why I do that is because I know you guys don't want to sit there and listen to radio silence while I'm gathering my thoughts. I'm wanting to be at least somewhat entertaining for you guys, because I know that you guys come to me for some level of entertainment, and also somewhat for information, and also for, you know, maybe some thought provocation. All right, fair enough. I mean, that's basically how I've branded my channel. I got no problems with it. And it's something that I enjoy. It's something that I greatly enjoy. And so me not making money off of it, not a big deal to me, because it's something I'm passionate about. But the thing is passion doesn't fill a belly, unfortunately. And so, you know, some people want to go ahead and make it a career and that sort of thing. You know, they're basically working for themselves. They get to call the shots for the most part. They're not really beholden to anyone, but they are beholden to their fans. And that is kind of an issue in and of itself. But it works out well depending on the brand that you've made, because certain people are going to be attracted to certain brands. So if you brand your channel as a channel that, you know, is steeped in conspiracy theory and all that sort of thing, you're going to gain that crowd. So then if you all of a sudden try to rebrand your channel to this channel is all about empirical fact, yeah, there might be some overlap, but at that point you're going to have a little bit of a time span there where that transition is not going to be all that good, because people that are coming from the empirical fact group are going to look at your previous stuff and go, what the fuck is this shit? And you're going to have the people who've been with you for a while look at you and go, well, what the fuck? I mean, you're sitting, at first you said that, you know, this was reasonable, and now you're saying that it's completely unreasonable, and anyone who believes this should be ashamed of themselves. You know, it's like, at that point, you're fucking with fire. So make sure that what you brand your channel as is what you want to brand your channel as. Like me, before my channel had any real branding to it, I was just kind of up in the air. You know, I talked about a bunch of different subjects. Well, the MGTOW subjects ended up becoming more numerous and more numerous. And so, of course, now I'm a MGTOW channel. My channel is known as a MGTOW channel. Anyone who's talking about my channel knows that my channel has MGTOW content on it. Then they come here and then they see the political stuff, they see the social stuff, they see scientific stuff. You know, they're sitting there and they're seeing all these things, but they came here specifically for the MGTOW content. And I brought it up before, like whenever I sit there and even start to talk video gaming and it's not directly having to do with MGTOW, like on my banter streams, people get a little bit pissy about it. And fair enough, you know, because that's not necessarily what they come to my channel for. They've come to expect thought-provoking discussion from my channel and all of that. But the thing is now you've got places like YouTube who are sitting there and trying to say, well, if this is your brand of channel, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you fail. That is where I'm having an issue at this point, because the thing is YouTube used to be about expressing yourself and that sort of thing, and now it's anything but that. It's basically, look, either you toe the line or you find some other way to monetize yourself. And now it's going into the, even if you find an alternate way of monetizing yourself, we're going to make sure your content doesn't get out to any new people. And we're going to make sure that you're not able to support yourself. So you have to shut up because now you don't have the time to do this. Because now you have to go out and you have to work these shitty ass jobs and that sort of thing. And that's the reason why when I hear people sitting there and saying that, you know, people should just make content that they like to make and all that sort of thing, I agree with it, but also at the same time, it's kind of a misnomer. Because if you're only making the content that you like, then you're limiting yourself to strictly the people that only agree with you. You create an echo chamber. Now, me, I don't like echo chambers. The reason why I don't necessarily like echo chambers is because of the fact that if you've got one of those ideas that's in that echo chamber, that's accepted in that echo chamber, that's an absolutely horrible idea, such as, oh, let's say hashtag punch a Nazi, you know, you got something like that in there, then it's never challenged. And if it's never challenged, people aren't going to see, hey, then maybe this isn't the best idea. Maybe there's some better alternatives. They're not even going to think to ask those questions. They're going to think, well, this is just fact, and I'm going with this. And I absolutely despise that about echo chambers. And I know I'm not the only one. That's the reason why so many people absolutely hate echo chambers. Whenever you hear echo chamber come up, it's very much so in a negative connotation. And for good reason. Because echo chambers are basically the antithesis of freedom of expression. And so now YouTube is starting to kind of become an echo chamber. Slowly but surely, it's going to fucking happen. I'm telling you right now. Because all you have to do is look at the people who are in charge of deciding what content is and is not acceptable. You should never have specific groups saying, oh, this content is acceptable, this content isn't acceptable. That is not the way to do things. Now, if the vast majority of people are just like, nah, fuck that noise, then those places aren't going to get enough traffic to sustain. They're going to kill off themselves. That's how the free market of ideas functions. But the thing is unfortunately for people that are in charge of places like Google and YouTube, the vast majority of the people are looking at the ideas that they espouse and are saying, yeah, no, fuck that. And they don't like it because they're seeing these other ideas that are popping up, you know, stuff like MGTOW content, stuff like MRA content, all of that sort of shit. This anti-PC culture content in itself. And they're saying, all right, we have to crush that. We have to make sure that that isn't allowed here. But we can't outright say that they're not allowed to post that on here because, one, there's nothing illegal about it. And two, if we do that, then they'll just go ahead and call us out on our hypocrisy yet again. So that is a massive issue that I am seeing. And it really fucking sucks to see companies like Google and YouTube go down that path. But it is what it is. They've chosen to go down that path. They can turn around at any point. I mean, if they start seeing themselves hemorrhaging users and all of a sudden their return users start going bye-bye, they're probably going to sit there and go, all right, we need to reassess this shit. Something's going wrong. Unfortunately, with the speed that Google addresses things, which is about as fast as a fucking glacier, well, unfortunately, it's going to be too late at that point. And it's going to be a while until any of that shit really fucking kicks off, let's be honest. It's going to be a while. It's going to take a little bit for people to find that new space. Fair enough. But the thing is, it is happening. So if you're going to sit there and start up a YouTube channel, just remember it's very finite. Maybe don't sit there and rely on that as your only source of income. Just saying, you know, spread your eggs out into a few different baskets. That's what I'm starting to do anyway. I'm practicing what I preach. Like right now I'm on BitChute. I'm probably going to go ahead and get onto like stuff like VidMe. I'm probably going to go ahead and start streaming on Twitch as well. Start kind of spreading out a little bit. So that way when the YouTube bubble does fully pop, because right now it's just barely getting strained to the edge. But the thing is when it does eventually pop, I want to have somewhere to be able to go. And I don't want to sit there and try to pigeonhole anyone. I don't want them to sit there and go, oh, well, if I want to watch Riot's stuff, yeah, I have to go onto this service. No. I don't want to do that. But I'm also not going to take the time to put all of my stuff onto every fucking video streaming service out there. Because good Lord, I'd have to have several dedicated internet connections just for the upload. But it's an interesting thing to me, seeing what's going on with Google and YouTube, seeing exactly how society fights back against something so pervasive as it. I'm finding it very interesting. Like you got some people that are now refusing to use the Google search engine, period. End of story. They're like, I don't care if the other search engines don't exactly have the best track record, but they're doing it just to spite Google. You've got that sort of thing going on. Then you've also got, you know, people sitting there and using ad block on anywhere that could even potentially be giving Google money to make sure that Google doesn't get that money. from it. You've got people that are on YouTube platforms, you know, on the YouTube platform, which is owned by Google, sitting there and calling Google a piece of shit, and then waiting for the censorship to come down. So then they can go onto other platforms and go, yeah, look, see, this platform doesn't allow for any critical thought of it. All right, fair enough. It works. And, you know, I mean, sitting there and showing hypocrisy is one of those things where it's very effective nowadays. A lot of people are so sick and tired of hypocrisy because, and I agree with that, Turbattle. So Google does pay off some ad blockers, but then there are other ad blockers that sit there and say, yeah, fuck you. But there are other companies out there that are sitting there saying, well, if you have an ad blocker, you can't use our service. Well, guess what? All of a sudden their traffic dies unless they're offering real quality product. And again, it's people sitting there and getting to the point now where they're asking the question, is this worth my time? Like, are you worth my time? Because if you're going to make money off of my time, then you have to give me something, whether it be entertainment, accurate information, entertaining accurate or inaccurate information. It doesn't matter. People are sitting there and starting to view their time as a similar resource to money. And I'm loving that. In fact, I covered that in my bartering stream. Or should I say my currency stream. But the thing is when you go ahead and you actually start looking at your time as a finite resource that you have, you tend to start spending it more wisely. That's the reason why when you're a little kid, you just fuck around with your time and that sort of thing, and whatever, you know, it's not a big deal. But as you grow older, you start noticing time more and more because now you can see the top of the pile as it shrinks. Well, the thing is people are starting to see time that way at younger and younger ages, and so companies like Google are starting to struggle with it. Because if they're going to sit there and push a narrative, if they're going to push a certain ideology or certain viewpoint, the people who don't have that viewpoint or don't follow that thought pattern, don't practice that ideology, well, they're going to say, well, this isn't worth my time. This isn't for me. I'm going elsewhere. Especially when that company goes ahead and starts trying to censor opposition. Then you've got those people that sit there and go, oh, you're trying to force this? Well, guess what? I'm going to fight against you tooth and nail to the bitter end. You've got those types of people. And the thing is Google's getting more and more and more of this negative attention. And so they're losing more and more and more traction because now people are starting to use their services less. Or they're finding workarounds to get around their services, to kind of stick it to them a little more, kind of twist the knife. So the thing is now we're starting to see the panic. Oh, James Damore did another interview today? That's interesting. I'll have to watch it. But I'm just at the point now where even I'm sitting here and I'm looking at YouTube and I'm like, yeah, no, the time's definitely limited. That bubble's getting ready to pop. And so I'm going to go ahead and start putting my stuff up in other places. As I start putting it up in other places, I'll probably go ahead and just start putting links into my descriptions and just have that as a regular thing. Oh, on the Rubin Report. Oh. That, all right, I'll definitely have to go ahead and watch that then. But, yeah, it's one of those things. If you're planning on starting up your own YouTube channel, Make sure that you brand it the way that you want it to be branded. Don't particularly try the gunshot method. I can tell you right now, it doesn't happen. Yeah, but also, dude, Turbattle says the ground is ripe for another search engine to take over, but Firefox sold out. Yeah, dude, I used to use Firefox, and I stopped using them because of the issues that Firefox had. I mean, you had the security breaches, you had the payoffs happening. There's multiple reasons for people to not want to use Firefox. But the thing is if you're going to go ahead, you're going to start on a streaming service or something like that, make sure that you have the stuff elsewhere, because at that point it allows you to reach a wider audience. You know, like maybe some people only use this one thing, but they're all like, oh, well, I'll go over there and I'll watch them on this so I can get the stuff as it happens. You know, like if you're on Twitch or something like that, you know, yeah, a lot of people from Twitch will go ahead and load up their Twitch streams onto YouTube. I mean, go ahead and take a look in the PokeTuber community. You got A Drive. He'll go ahead and upload his shiny hunting streams. But the thing is he still knows that people will go to his live streams to catch it live and maybe get a response live from that person. That's another reason why I love streaming as opposed to just outright making videos. Because the thing is I don't get to interact with you guys until the next video. Or just down in the comment section, which is a lot less personal. I like actually having more of that personal interaction with people, and as much as you can on the internet. But the thing is when you go ahead and have that sort of situation there, you're gonna end up having a few issues that come along with it. Like you'll have some trolls that come in that try to cause issues, try to make everyone else not have a good time in your stream, or try to get them all riled up, or, you know, the notice me senpai ones especially. And you'll get that sort of shit. It's something that you have to deal with. But to me, it's worth it. It's worth dealing with that shit just because of the fact that afterward, you can go ahead, after you've gotten all that shit sorted out, now you have people that you can go ahead and interact with. They can feed into a conversation. You know, you can get their point of view on it. Maybe have a new world of thought opened up to you. It's always a good thing, in my opinion. But you don't really get that on like gaming streams. Don't get me wrong; they're fun in of themselves. But the thing is it's still nice to be able to interact with people, even during a gaming stream. Because then you can go ahead and, I mean, obviously at that point you got the problem of people trying to spoil the game and blah, 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 blah. Or people, you know, calling you a noob. You know, that typical behavior. But you'll also have people that are sitting there and saying, you know, oh, I'm buying the game in a few days. Oh, this looks awesome. This is really getting me revved up for the game and that sort of thing. Or people sitting there and talking about, you know, other subjects, and you can go ahead and cover that, use that for filler in the lulls and action between games. You know, it's a very useful tool. And that's one of the reasons why I like having people on my streams with me, because then it's not strictly on me to continuously talk, to continuously go, and that sort of thing. When you're live streaming something like a game, you always have someone on there that's going to go ahead and chew up some of that time. And that would be the game itself. Not to mention then all the focus isn't directly on you particularly, which can actually be a little bit intimidating, especially when you get into those larger streams. Like there was one stream that I had on my channel where I got up to 26 people watching all at the same time. That's a little intimidating, you know, 26 people listening to you fucking talk. Damn, Like, there's a reason why, you know, public speaking classes are a thing. Because that sort of shit, you have to kind of know what you're getting into. There's a lot going on with it. But if you're going to go ahead, if you're going to start up your own YouTube channel, by all means do it. Just make sure that it's about what you want it to be about. Stick to it. Don't sit there and let yourself get completely knocked off track by something else. You know, make sure that you have your main content there. But also at the same time, address your own strengths and weaknesses. You know, like, you know, it's one of those, it's just one of those things where, like, let's say you're one of those people that's very introverted, right? Maybe doing a streaming channel right out the gate isn't exactly a good thing for you. You know, I mean, because you have to have kind of an extroverted personality type, or at least be able to fake it. Like me, believe it or not, I'm actually an introvert, very much so. My personality type heavily leans into introverted territory. Every personality test that I've ever fucking taken that has any level of clout to it whatsoever said I'm an introvert. You wouldn't expect it seeing me on my streams, because I'm constantly talking, I'm constantly putting ideas out there, I'm asking people for their opinions, I'm addressing their opinions directly. Those are all extroverted things. Hell, just having a YouTube channel tends to be an extroverted thing. Introverts tend to not make YouTube channels. And if they do make one, they're not around for long. But it's just one of those things of, you know, address your strengths, address your weaknesses. What are you good at? What are you passionate about? Like, let's say you're exceedingly good at video games. You're extremely passionate about video games. Make a video gaming channel. If you're passionate about politics, make a political channel. Find the thing that you're passionate about and go about it in that direction. Because the thing is, if you're passionate about it, the burnout is not anywhere near as bad. You know, Turbattle, I'm not sure who's in chat. I've had people coming in, dropping out, coming in, dropping out. So I'm not sure who's still in chat. If anyone wants to roll call, go for it. But yeah, I absolutely love doing the live streams because I like getting other people's opinions and that sort of thing. Yes, I know, Turbattle, that politics is discouraged on YouTube, but it's discouraged right now mainly in the way of if you're looking to make money. If you're just wanting to go ahead, have your opinion pieces out there, or you talking about politics and that sort of thing, they tend to kind of leave you alone. I mean, hell, look at my channel. I'm not getting banned or anything like that. And I'm exceedingly critical of Google's little butt buddies, the PC crowd. So if anyone was going to get banned, I would. I mean, I'm a low-level YouTube channel. I'm not that big. Not too many people would notice me being gone. So yeah, you know, it's one of those things. They could easily get rid of me, and it wouldn't really make that much of a splash. But they're not doing so. And in fact, politics is in the search words that I use on here. Hell, it's in the title of this live stream. Oh yeah, there are a lot of weird nebulous rules, and I actually addressed that a little bit earlier on in the stream. But yeah, there are a lot of weird nebulous rules, and that's where I find a real issue with their rules, is the fact that nothing is really clearly defined. Like, they have a few things that are specifically defined. Well, yeah, Holy Blade, I mean, you're subscribed to my channel. I mean, my subscribers would notice that I was gone, but I mean, the larger YouTube community wouldn't really notice unless, you know, unless like it was to happen to me and then all of y'all go out to like Raging Golden Eagle and Angry MGTOW and all the others and get the word out there, and then them get a hold of me and get me on streams telling them what happened and that sort of thing. That would be the only way that, you know, it would get noticed in mass, is if that sort of thing happened. But at that point, then all of a sudden, now I have a giant bullseye on my chest in real life. You know, so that's kind of a dangerous thing in and of itself. I'd be willing to go ahead and do that, because then at that point, it's all like, yeah, no, they're just actively censoring at this point. And it would be all like, yep, again, Google proves a critic's point. Right the fuck there. Hooray. In other news, bears still shit in the woods. But yeah, it's just one of those things where if you're going to go ahead, you're going to make a YouTube channel or a Twitch stream channel or a channel on like BidMe or Dailymotion, whatever platform you're on, make absolutely certain that what you're talking about is something that you're passionate about. Because if you're passionate about it, people are going to pick up on that, and people are going to react much more positively to it than they would otherwise. Like, I can sit there and I can talk about stuff that holds absolutely no interest to me. I can go ahead and do that, and I can pretend that I'm passionate about it, but people pick up on it. You know, because you tend to lose energy very quickly, and you tend to start kind of getting off track and onto other subjects that maybe you're a little more interested in at the time. Like, you guys can sit there and tell if I'm sitting there and I'm talking about something and I suddenly lose interest in it, all of a sudden I off track, off onto a completely different subject, and I stay there. If I never come back around to that original subject again, it's probably because I either suddenly lost interest in it, or I've said everything I can about it and now it's boring to me. That is a thing. That is part of my quirks in my personality. And, you know, everyone's kind of like that to a degree. I mean, if you're not completely into something, you're not wanting to talk about it all day, every day. You're going to be sitting there going, yeah, I'd rather go ahead and talk about this because this is something that's at least fun. So, I mean, you've got that going on with it. But at the same time, you know, sometimes you're going to have to discuss certain things that you're just really not interested in. And you can even sit there and say, look, I'm not particularly interested in this, but it's pertinent to what my channel's about, yada, yada, yada. There's ways of getting around that sort of thing. So people will realize that, yeah, you might not be necessarily interested in it, but you have to address it at this point because of reason A, B, C, or D. Which is fine enough on its own. I mean, you know, we all have to address certain things that we don't want to address at some point in our life. It happens. But when you go ahead and you are constantly doing that, then your channel's going to lose energy, and then your channel's going to go down. Like with me, that's one of the reasons why every once in a while you'll see a lull in my content that I put out. Like, maybe I stopped doing streams quite so often, or I'm not releasing videos. Like, I haven't released a video in God knows how long. Almost all my content is live stream now. Part of it's because of technological limitation, because my new phone really does not like the heat, and I like to shoot my videos outside. But also at the same time, I'm limited to 30 minutes of recording at a time on my phone. Because then all of a sudden the camera crashes on it. But I also, like I said, I prefer the live streams. When I first did my first live stream, I was nervous as hell. I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know who was going to show up. I didn't know what kind of interaction I was going to get. I didn't know if I was going to get flooded with trolls. I had no idea of what was coming. I had heard nightmare stories and I had heard pie in the sky stories about the first stream jitters. But the thing is now I've gotten to the point where I prefer live streams because I get to interact with you guys. You guys get to go ahead and give me live feedback that I can respond to instantly. And people can see me responding to it instantly. And no, Terror Battle, I don't have a Patreon yet, but I'm thinking about going ahead and starting up a Patreon just in case, you know, people want to go ahead and maybe kick a buck or something to me or whatever, you know, if they appreciate the stuff. And then I can go ahead and update my hardware, you know, maybe go ahead and buy myself a camera to go ahead and record videos, all that sort of thing. Because that's where the money would primarily go to, is to upgrading my technology, and then after that, cost of living type of thing, just so then I can go ahead and continue doing what I do instead of having to go ahead and do it just on the off hours between long ass hard working super shifts. Oh, you're talking about the Blue Yeti microphones? Yeah, I would love to have a Blue Yeti microphone. Oh my God, those things. Oh, yeah. Those microphones are so fucking nice. But yeah, I'm thinking about starting up Patreon because you're not the first one to bring it up. In fact, I brought it up several times in other streams. You know, people are personal messaging me saying, when are you going to start up a Patreon? I want you to start up a Patreon and that sort of thing. I'm all like, okay, well, maybe, you know, but like I said, you know, I know that my streams are actually low quality right now because, you know, I'm using a webcam microphone. Like I could turn on my webcam, but my room's a mess. That's the only reason why I don't have my actual camera on. Once I get my room actually fully situated, once I have the time for it, then and you know, the stuff to decorate it and that sort of thing, then I can go ahead and do it. And I'll go ahead and start turning on the camera. But oh no, Holy Blade's phone is dying. Give it CPR. CPR, charge per regulation. Anywho, but the thing is it's one of those things, like, I don't know, it's all like, when I think about Patreon, I think about, you know, these YouTubers that have these massive followings, you know, that have like, you know, 20, 30, 50,000 subscribers. And I'm all like, would me opening up a Patreon seem pretentious? You know, that's another question that I have, because at the same time, when you open up a Patreon and you put it out there, it doesn't matter if you're sitting there and you're saying, oh, well, you know, it's, if you guys like the quality of my content, and if you want to go ahead and do it, it's completely voluntary. You know, even if you're the most humble person on the planet, and then people will sit there and say, oh, he's just e-begging. It's all like, no, e-begging is whenever someone goes, please go to my Patreon so I can afford this and I can afford that and I can afford this and I can afford that. I got hit by the YouTube apocalypse, and so now my livelihood's at risk, so I'm asking you to pick up the slack. That's what I associate to be e-begging. I don't consider someone putting out, you know, just putting a link to their Patreon page in their description or on their YouTube channel or on their website or whatever. I don't consider that e-begging, because then if people feel like you deserve to have some money and they want to help support you, they like the content that you do and they want to keep it coming, then yeah, you know, they can go ahead and do it. But that's the only concern I have about Patreon, because then people can sit there and go, oh, well, they're a sellout. No, 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 no. It's all like, no, I'm not a sellout. I'm just sitting there and putting it out there. If someone likes the stuff, then go for it. So yeah, I'll probably start up a Patreon at some point. you know. But again, at that point, it would be one of those things of, you know, I'm not going to go with like how some channels will do it, where it's all like, you know, if someone donates to Patreon and then puts out a request, I'll automatically put out a video on it. And so, you know, it's one of those things, you know, it's all like, if someone, you know, gave money on Patreon and said, hey, would you specifically cover this thing? I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Would I be opposed to doing that? No, I wouldn't. But also at the same time, it's all like, if someone was to sit there, go on a Patreon and give me a few bucks and then say, hey, I would like you to go ahead and talk about the third trimester and what to expect. Fuck that. I'm going to be like, no, I don't know any of that shit. It's like, there's no way I could possibly experience that shit firsthand. I ain't going to sit there and fucking talk about that. Not unless you want me to do a satire piece, or if you want me to do it from a guy's perspective, which might make a fun video or stream in and of itself. Now I'm actually thinking about it, but still. So yeah, I'll probably start up a Patreon. I mean, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I know Sandman will. Basically, if you go onto his Patreon and you donate and then ask a question, he'll go ahead and pretty much get right on it. I actually kind of like that about Sandman. I will admit that. Like, I'm not knocking him on it, but it's just all like, dude, you guys, y'all tend to come up with some pretty hard stuff. I'll admit it. And so sometimes at that point it'd be all like, oh, dude, oh God, that's like 9 hours worth of research, son of a bitch, you know, 9 hours worth of research for an hour-long live stream. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit there and look for other MGTOW channels really to plug me all that much unless they do it voluntarily, because I had a bad experience with the whole angry MGTOW thing. You know, that's kind of got me a little bit jumpy there. I'm all like, and I go off of past experiences. I think that might be one of the reasons why I'm MGTOW. Zeitgeist says it's only immoral if you take money by gunpoint, unless the government does it. Then it's always moral and justified. Oh man. But yeah, Tara, actually, some of the people that subscribed to my channel actually came over from that thing that Angry MGTOW did on my channel. But the thing is what he did was kind of it was a double-edged sword, because he picked out one small part out of one of my videos, and where I was disagreeing with him, and where I had said, you know, I'm surprised you didn't bring that up. And I'll admit, it was actually partly my fault, and I even admitted it in my response video. One of the few times I've actually made a response video, like legitimately. But, you know, like I didn't word it exactly in the best way, and it easily could have been misunderstood. So I don't exactly blame him for that. But the thing is it was just like the fact that he took out that one little aspect and then decided to kind of go off on it. It kind of pissed me off a little bit. And I'm like, you know what? Because I had some people come over and subscribe, but then I had some people come over and start fucking heckling. And so it was just a thing. And I don't have anything against Angry. Don't get me wrong. I don't. But it was just all like that experience right there. I'm all like maybe if Raging Golden Eagle pointed people over my way, all right, cool. But like with Sandman and that sort of thing in the more kind of hardline MGTOW area, I'm kind of trying to stay away from that. Oh, Zeitgeist, it wasn't any big thing. It wasn't like him trying to nuke me out of orbit or anything like that, Zeitgeist. Don't take it that way. But it was just when he introduced, like, the bit that he showed there, he's all like, well, you don't understand what I was saying, and you know, and that sort of thing. Kind of trying to get that mental high ground, I guess you would call it. It's not moral high ground, but you know, trying to have some sort of mental superiority. And I'm like, dude, we're both just as stupid as the other. But like I said, I got nothing against Angry, and I definitely appreciate the sub bump that it gave me when my channel was really first starting out, because I think I jumped from like 60 people up to like 100 subs or something like that. Hey RP, how's it going? But yeah, I mean, like I definitely appreciate it. He definitely helped put a little bit of air under my channel's wings when I was first starting out. And I had always watched his stuff. I still watch his stuff. You know, I find it interesting. He brings up some very good points, and then every once in a while I'm like, I somewhat disagree with that. But, you know, to each their own. RP says nothing much, just lurking but failing at it. Yes, yes, you are, because I noticed you. But no, it's just one of those things. Like, I've noticed that there's been a lot of personalities really starting to rise on YouTube and all that, and it's the personalities that Google doesn't want to rise. And I'm actually kind of loving it. The Kekistani in me is so proud of that. Like honestly. Because the thing is also at the same time, that's also getting people to go over to other areas where people are doing that, where they can't necessarily post what they want to post here, and so then they'll go ahead and post it somewhere else. And I think YouTube limiting itself as far as what content is sustainable is kind of a bad thing. So yeah, I mean, that's a thing in and of itself, and I really see that YouTube's doing a lot of damage to itself that way, and by extension Google, since Google's already kind of losing money on YouTube as it is. And I really think that a lot of this is just Google panicking, because they climbed into bed with the enemy. And I'm going to say that they climbed into bed with the enemy, because the thing is they climbed in with the radical left. Like, let's not mince words here. They climbed in with people who want to have freedom of expression for themselves, but to limit the expression of others if they don't like what the others are saying. And when a company like Google, which is about the free flow of information, or supposedly anyway, crawls into bed with that type of mentality, oh, you get a bastard child that'll take down any house. And unfortunately, they've kind of painted themselves into a corner. I don't really think that Google has a way of getting out of this while saving face. Like, no matter which way they go with it, they're going to take a hit. It's just one leads to bankruptcy and the other one leads to a whole shitstorm of stuff for about 2 years. Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, yeah, no, like someone like PewDiePie is actually, you would think that he would be relatively safe, which he was from YouTube's standpoint, really. Like, YouTube was all like, yeah, we can't really touch this guy. But the fact of the matter is when it comes to PewDiePie, I don't really see the guy going away. Like, even if they were to sit there and lose their fucking minds and actually ban his channel, people will find him. And that's the thing about these personalities that are rising. It's the personalities rising. And those personalities are bringing the ideas up with them. But those personalities are also getting a lift from having these populist ideals. Like someone sit there and tried to say I was a rising personality on YouTube. Not really. I mean, when I'm talking about rising personalities, I'm talking about those people that, you know, start off their channel, then a few months later, all of a sudden they have 200 subscribers, then a month later they have 1,000 subscribers, you know, those kind of out of nowhere hitters. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the ones that just sit there and keep going at the slog until, you know, the slog until everything just kind of rolls over and submits. I ain't talking about that. I'm in the latter on that. Like me, I'm just kind of brute forcing my way in. But you've got some personalities that are just, they're rising to the top because people latch onto them and absolutely fall in love with them. I don't have a personality like that. You can't just fall in love with my personality out of fucking nowhere. It's either you like my personality or you don't. It's its own thing. And I understand that about myself. But the whole thing is when I'm saying that Google is losing its traction, what I'm meaning is it's losing its social traction. Like as far as it still being a conglomerate powerhouse, it is. And it will be for a long time. It's like you can't get up to that height of Google and crash all that quickly unless you're purposely fucking doing it or unless something really fucked up happens. Oh, don't worry, RP. I'm keeping an eye on chat at the same time. That's another reason why sometimes I'll kind of stutter and kind of my way through some things is because I'm actually reading the chat typically. I don't just check in on the chat. I'm usually reading the chat as it moves. Like my eye gets drawn to movement anyway, so it works out perfectly for me. Exactly. The new generation won't be as beholden to Google. In fact, there's a lot of people now that are actually starting to just say, fuck it, and going to the deep web. And going through all the bullshit there, which anyone who's gone to the deep web will be able to tell you very, very quickly that navigating it not only is treacherous and perilous, but also at the same time, it is difficult as fuck to find what you're actually looking for. Because they don't exactly have search engines like we have now, because not everything's domain name server listed. And yeah, L of MGTOW, I agree with you there. Google does have its hands tied, but the thing is it's the one that bought the rope, pre-tied the knot, and then put its hands behind its back. So I actually have no sympathy for Google at this point. They're the ones who decided to go down this path. It wasn't like they were forced down it. If they hadn't have pandered to these very same groups that are trying to take them down in the first place, these groups wouldn't have been able to get a stranglehold on them. But the wrong CEO got in. The wrong people got put into the hiring positions. And the wrong people got put into the policy positions. Well, Google should remember you, remind you of the Democrats, because at this point, for one, they've very much so become a Democrat mouthpiece. Like, let's be completely fucking honest here. They have become a Democrat mouthpiece. They really don't like it when you're anti-Democrat. They really don't like you. But then also at the same time, I know you're talking about, I know what you're talking about the corporatism on one side and SJW on the other. And I get that. And the thing is you can't have the two in the same space. It's kind of like with Harry Potter and Voldemort. You know, one can't survive while the other lives type of thing. It is one of those things here. Because the thing is if you actually take a look at the social justice spheres and actually listen to their arguments, yes, I actually listen to their arguments and I actually take their arguments very seriously. But the thing is when you listen to their arguments, capitalism and corporatism does not have a place in their little world. It doesn't. In fact, because the thing is capitalism and corporatism is actually based off of something that they absolutely despise. And that is meritocracy. And yeah, every once in a while, I'll go ahead and I'll become part of the Lurk Squad RP. Yeah, like I'll go into chat rooms or I'll go into fucking comment sections on videos and that sort of thing, and I'll actually take a look at what's going on. But I'm also not very good at lurking. I tend to sit there and actually stir the pot, because then my Kikistani blood boils, and well, that's never good for anyone around. I think that it's funny because the thing is, I've said before that I'm Italian, but the thing is the type of Italian that I am is Calabrese Italian, and Calabrese Italians are very known for being hard-headed, and once they go ahead and find something out, they don't let go of it. We tend to be pit bulls. We won't drop it. We won't drop it until it's shredded to pieces. So it's actually really hard for me to not talk about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again on my channel. Quite frankly, the fact that I've kept my topics so diverse for so long while talking on MGTOW specific topics is amazing to me. I'll admit I have impressed myself a little bit here because I know myself. But the thing is there's so much to talk about. I mean, there's a lot of chew toys on the ground, and I just want to pick all of them up all at the same time. That's the reason why sometimes my live streams will sit there and go for 8 hours, because it's all like they're too many chew toys get thrown in front of me, and I start freaking the fuck out. Let's see. Turbattle, the internet is headed for a bad place. Yeah, it's headed for the deep web. That's where it's headed right now. A lot of people are just like, I actually know one person that won't go on regular internet anymore. They automatically go to deep web. They always run it through multiple proxies. I mean, it's like, holy shit, motherfucker. Like, for him to just get onto the internet takes him like 10 minutes because of all the shit that he does. But I can't blame him. To him, he figures the time is worth it. And the thing is on the deep web, you don't really have censorship. Oh yeah, Turbattle. I heard about the whole Facebook and them cracking down, quote unquote, on Russian disinformation. Just one moment. I'll be right back. I have a phone call that I need to answer. Sorry about that. And you see, those are the types of long pauses where I like having someone else here, because at least then they can keep you all entertained. But when it comes to the whole Russian disinformation thing, at that point, that's just them sitting there and going, oh, we have a good reason for censoring people. Because if you actually take a look at it, they don't require that someone sits there and gives proof that it's Russian disinformation. They don't require that. What they require is that it's anti-Democrat or anti-Hillary or anti-SJW or what the fuck ever, you know, just that's all that they require. Then all it takes is just people bitching about it. And then they'll go ahead and come in and censor it. And that's what it is. It's not, I won't sit there and seriously call it cracking down, because it's not cracking down, it's censoring. Because I'm all for cracking down on some things, you know, maybe, you know, legitimately applying the rules, or applying the rules a little bit more harshly if the way that you were applying them before wasn't working. I'm all for that. You know, maybe increasing the punishments of rule breaking. But what they're doing now is they're specifically and intentionally applying the rules disproportionately. And they're even breaking their own rules to do so. That's when you have a fucking problem. Just like what YouTube is fucking doing with the whole shadow boxing people. Or as it's become popular to say, putting people into the timeout corner. That's what's going on. And that's what's bugging me. And yeah, Holy Blade, Europe does need to be liberated from the Nazis again. It is a fucking thing. And I think that it's funny and ironic that Merkel is kind of heading up the charge on them basically incorporating Nazi principles into the EU. I find that very ironic. Oh yeah, Terror Battle. Yeah, some ad companies are trying to pull their ads from shit like Fox News and all that sort of thing. But the problem is at that point, it's one of those things of really, so you're pulling your ads from one specific news source that just so happens to run contrary to the social justice narrative. You know, a place that actually does some real reporting from time to time. You know, unlike the Clinton News Network or anything like that. And that's another big thing. Honestly, I don't think that advertisers should be able to pick and choose where their shit shows up. It's all like, if you're advertising on a platform, then your advertisements show up where they're going to show up. Deal with it. Because the thing is a lot of people are all like, oh, well, that's not censorship. Actually, it is. It's censorship through starvation. Let me put it to you this way. Let's say that the government was to go ahead and pass a law saying that you had to go outside every morning and shout that Hillary is the most trustworthy person imaginable. And then they sit there and say, you can choose to not do this, but if you are caught not doing it, we will drain your bank accounts and put a mark on your social security number, and any money that would be paid to you automatically gets paid to us. Would that not be some level of censorship? Let's say you wanted to go out every morning and say Hillary Clinton for prison. But you're not allowed to shout that out. No. You have to shout out the opposite. Forcing someone to say something opposite to their beliefs is a form of censorship. Forcing someone to not say something because you disagree with it is censorship. This is censorship by way of starvation. I refuse to mince words on this anymore. This is censorship. I've had a lot of people try to argue with me on this. It's all like, look, if you're making it so it's impossible for someone to live while expressing their opinions, then you are censoring them. Period. End of story. But it's interesting to me that Google, of all things, is now trying to widely apply censorship to people while claiming to be anti-censorship. It's amazing to me, and it's disgusting. And all they're doing right now is setting up the groundwork for them to be overtaken easily by another service that refuses to take part in censorship. And the money will follow to that. I guarantee it. Because if a search engine was to come out that evenly applied its search criteria to everywhere, allowed people to look up the information that they want to look up, and if they decided to go ahead and make kind of a YouTube knockoff type of thing, have the same thing just without the SJW rules, do you really think that that would fail? No, it wouldn't. And for two reasons, it would not fail. One, advertisers are going to go to places that earn them more money. And there's going to be advertisers that will automatically go to that just because it's controversial. There are some advertisers that want controversial stuff being associated with them because it gets views, it gets clicks, it makes sales, it grows brands. But then, on top of that, that new service would get advertisement 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by the mainstream media while they're sitting there thinking that they're causing damage to it. We're already starting to see that with certain websites where they're saying that it's, Facebook for the alt-right or Twitter for the alt-right. Well, what makes it for the alt-right? Oh, because they don't sit there and censor people? Where people can actually go ahead and express themselves, even if their opinions aren't exactly popular? What, that makes it for the alt-right? They're making the alt-right appear to be the better choice. Like, let's just say it. They're making the extreme right look like the better choice as opposed to the extreme left. And so guess what? That means that more and more people are going to be looking at that. More and more people are going to sit there and say, you know what? We're going to go ahead. We're going to give them a shot. Because they actually allow us to speak. Why should we stop them from speaking? They're standing up for us being able to say what we want to say without getting a razz of shit for it if we make even the slightest mistake in what we say. That's a very good point, Terror Battle. You can at least argue with a right-wing extremist. The lefties will do everything to cost you your job or to get you put in prison. Or they'll just physically assault you straight out the gate and saying, oh, I was justified. I was just punching a Nazi because they asked me a question. It's interesting, in my opinion, to see how people are being drawn to this. People that would normally be completely neutral on the subject are starting to become active. Then you got places like Google and YouTube saying, "Oh, this is we're seeing a disturbing growth in anti-social justice rhetoric." It's like, you're the ones growing it. You're the ones causing this to grow. Because if you have a good idea, here's a secret. You're not going to have to shove it down people's throat. You're not going to have to force them to adhere to it. They'll do so naturally if it's a good idea. And that's why Google is losing its traction, because it's trying to force ideas down people's throats. Ask any rape victim. People don't like having shit forced down their throat unless they specifically ask for it. That's what's going on here. They're just opening your mouth and shoving it in. Well, now they're surprised that you're biting down on it and ripping it off and then spitting it out in their face. They're surprised that people who were once neutral are now starting to sit there and say, you know what, fuck this shit. Fuck anyone that supports it. And what do you mean by right-wing European is a communist to Americans? I'm honestly asking. It was Tur Battle that said that, and L was also sitting there and agreeing with it. So I'm kind of curious as to what that means, because I've known a lot of right-wing Europeans, and they tend to be centrist, in my opinion, not communist. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, there's some right-wing Europeans that have a lot in common with communists, but it's not the most common thing in the world. Let's see. Oh yeah, no, I see where you're coming from on that. He says that Europe is so far left that most right-wing Europeans have some socialist values. And the thing is to a degree, I can understand why. And I'm not going to sit there and fault them on it, you know, because, I mean, you know, when you sit there and you think about just the idea of kind of universal health care, it sounds all well and good. And I got no problems with with the idea of it. But the thing is we haven't found a way to put into practice that is actually viable. Does me sitting there and saying that make me a socialist or a communist? No. No, it doesn't. But the thing is it's all like, you know, maybe not having someone who's been debilitated by a life-altering illness have to go out and get a six-figure job just to be able to afford the treatment for their illness, which is keeping them from going out and getting a six-figure job. You know, it's kind of like that sort of thing. Oh, don't even get me started on Australia. Now, Australia has got some major fucking issues. I mean, yeah, they're starting to get a little bit of resistance from some of their news outlets. I mean, and to those news outlets, I take my hat off to them. But the thing is Australia has gone way downhill. Like they took some major fucking hits, and there's some major political correctness issues going on there. But at least they're willing to address it. You know, at least they have some national level media there that's actually willing to address the issues that are going on. Oh, and L, I actually I understand that. He says the EU is threatening companies in the US with fines and IP blocking. And that's a thing that if the companies actually thought about it, for one, it's really good PR. Two, it's not exactly possible for the EU to fully pull that off. And three, the whole fact of the matter is at that point the EU would starve itself out and its government would collapse. So it would only be a temporary thing because they would be killing their own commerce. L says lawmakers in Germany are considering far more aggressive legislation that would impose fines of up to $65 million on social media companies that fail to swiftly remove hate speech or other illegal content. Yeah, I heard about that. And the thing is at that point, it's all like, okay, fine. Then come up with your own social media shit and go ahead, block our IPs and see how that goes. But the thing is the companies in like the US and all that for some odd reason, they actually give some credence to it. They should sit there and just automatically block their service in those areas and say, and then just put it back on those local governments. Be all like, well, they're not allowing for freedom of expression or speech, and they're wanting us to censor people outside of the country. And so we refuse to do it. So if you've got an issue with it, go ahead and hit up your local government and tell them what you think. See, that would be a much better way of handling that situation, in my opinion, because then it puts all of the blame into the government's lap, and you'll actually, that would actually be one of the best ways to affect change in a government. But they're too cowardly to do it because they're all like, oh my God, we might lose $1 million in revenue from this one country when they're making billions of dollars in others. And don't get me started on the UN terror battle. Quite frankly, I think the US needs to pull out of the UN. I really do. The US needs to just pull out, just to show what's going on here. Because if the US was to pull out of the UN, you know that the world would take a step back and look at it and go, oh shit. The UN would come grinding to a halt right quick and in a hurry, and they would hit the panic button. Then they'd start making massive mistakes, causing more countries to pull out of the UN. It is the second largest generator, revenue generator for YouTube, but why is that? Elle says the EU is the second largest revenue generator for YouTube. I want to ask you this. Why? Because the EU is multiple countries. But the fact of the matter is the EU is multiple countries. If services start pulling out of the EU and start refusing to provide service to the EU doesn't exactly have the most production countries in the world. Like, they have some things that they do produce, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, if other services just start pulling out of them, then it's going to be a real shit show for them. And you're right on that, Terror Battle. Basically, the EU does aggregate the Europeans' most wealthy nations. But the thing is they also have this really bad habit of leading to financial ruin. Just take a look at Italy. Italy's not sitting too hot. Greece, again. You know, it's those types of situations where people look at that and go, is the EU really the fucking best answer here? And as the EU imposes more and more financial hardship on these countries and starts forcing these countries to pay for mistakes that aren't their own, and starts putting these countries into debt for reasons that are not of their own doing, more and more of these countries are going to have their own exits out. The EU is at a really hard point right now. A lot of people sit there and want to fear the European Union. I say don't. It's a cornered animal lashing out at this point. It's on its last legs. Financially, it's not viable. Politically, it's not viable. Not without going to extreme authoritarianism. And right now, it's just trying to cause as much damage as it can on its way out. Either that or trying to cause as much damage as it can so that way it can sit there and get a leg up. That's all it's going to do. It's causing some fucking issues. I will admit that about the EU. It's causing a big old ruckus. But the thing is eventually censorship will fail, because the thing is censoring word of mouth is much, much, much more difficult than censoring digital media. And that's what the EU is going to end up having to face if they survive long enough to that point. When they do have to face that, they're going to have one of two options. One, they're going to either have to concede defeat, or two, they're going to have to go into authoritarian measures, at which point the rest of the world is going to look at the European Union and how it's treating its civilians. And, well, the world tends to not deal too well with authoritarianism. And I understand that YouTube signed that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm saying Google is losing its traction, because it's signing agreements like that. And as this gets more prevalent, and it starts affecting more and more countries that aren't part of the EU, and it starts infringing on those people's rights, people will stop using YouTube. They'll go to those other sources. We're already starting to kind of see that. YouTube traffic has been a little rocky lately. And it doesn't surprise me that the EU is ran by socialist feminists. It doesn't surprise me. All of their actions completely line up that way. Yeah, Terrabattle, gas is around $6 a tank in the engineer paradise of Germany. But the fact of the matter is, all right, yeah, you can fill up your gas tank for plenty of fucking money. But the thing is how well does that work out for you when the German government doesn't do anything about violent riot groups that torch your fucking car? Just curious. And quite frankly, if Turkey becomes part of the, part of the EU and all that, and the EU keeps its ties with Turkey, that's just going to accelerate their demise, because Turkey is going to bleed them dry. One of the biggest issues that I have with the EU is the whole open travel thing between all the different countries. That is one of the stupidest things I've ever fucking heard. Yeah, and I'm glad to live in America too. And that's kind of sad because America is a fucking hellhole right now. At least politically. I mean, Jesus Christ. L says, well, what's fucked up is the two feminists that pushed the legal agreement are sleeping in bed with the European digital media companies and getting paid. Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing that's getting people pissed off at the EU, is because the EU is able to make unilateral decisions without the consent of the people, and that just paves the way for corruption. This has been brought up. We're starting to see two countries starting to get close to civil war, one being the US and the other being the UK. The UK pulled out of, has agreed to pull out of Europe because they're all like, yeah, fuck this, we're done. But the thing is Europe is now trying to pump in as many people as it can into that country to cause problems. People are starting to see this. People are starting to rise up and speak out. People are starting to meet violence with violence. I believe you on this, L. Like I said, it doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, well, RP, the thing is how long does it take to set off a bomb? I'm going to guess that it takes less than 3 months to set one off. I think it's absolutely fucking stupid, the whole traveling thing there. Because the thing is that means that anyone who goes into Europe now has basically free access Oh, yeah, no, feminism is destroying a lot, but it's also not just feminism. Don't get me wrong, feminism is definitely a huge pivot point. But the thing is we've come to associate feminism with a lot of stuff that feminism actually isn't about, I should say. Um, but the thing is feminism also did it to itself because you have the whole intersectional femininity thing, where they want to go ahead and get their hands into every last little detail of everything else. You know, they just can't stand to not be in control of one fucking thing. Just one moment, I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Family stuff that needed to be taken care of real quick. But when we're talking about the European Union, that's actually kind of its own special little case, because that's a whole melting pot of fucked up. But the thing is basic economics will eventually defeat it. It's just a matter of holding your ground at that point. And I'm sorry, anytime you have someone associated with you that sits there and says that terrorism is part and parcel of city living and that you should just accept it, yeah, that's an issue. At that point, that shows that that party who is supporting this person doesn't exactly give a fuck about you, doesn't give a fuck about your safety or your family's safety. And I really doubt that your average citizen of the European Union actually believes that the European Union has their best interests at heart. I highly, highly doubt that. Oh, L, I could go ahead and do an entire live stream on Sweden. Oh, I could. Uh, I guess it would be kind of a comedy stream. But another big issue that a lot of these countries are going to be facing very, very soon is population number growth. I mean, they already say that they are, but the thing is we're actually meeting the replacement values needed. But they're wanting to see massive fucking growth, and I'm like, why? If you've got people there that are already, if you don't have enough jobs for all of your people, if you don't have enough money to go around as it is, why do you want more people? And if you're going to bring in more people, why are you bringing in people that don't have workable skills or are unwilling to work workable skills? Why are you offering to pay for them to live and then expecting them to just go ahead and work just for the hell of it? It's not going to fucking happen. In all honesty, at this point, there's really only two ways that this can fucking go. One way is people pull their fucking heads out of their ass and get these people out of government power. Or we can end up in a situation where a civil war will fucking start up and a lot of people will lose their lives. It's looking ever more evident that we're gonna be going with the latter. And Zeitgeist brings up a good point. Feminism did cause a great deal of debt. And now we're seeing a lot of our problems coming down to us being in debt. And if we actually look at where the debt has come from, people are always reluctant to show that the actions of feminism have led to quite a bit of it. I'm not going to say the majority, but it's a noticeable amount. Yeah, RP, I've actually talked about Poland, and if I was to move to any country other than the US, it would be Poland. The reason why is because, for one, if you're an able-bodied man, you need to be armed, just in case defense needs to fucking happen. And two, they're actively refusing the EU's bullshit. And yes, feminism did take trades out of high school. They weren't specifically looking to take trades out of high school, but it ended up happening because they ended up lumping in the trades classes with home ec. They wanted to get rid of home ec badly. Why did they want to get rid of home ec? Well, because they said, oh, because it teaches gendered stereotypes, even though both guys and girls could take home ec. I mean, hell, my high school had home ec. I took it. When I went in there, what happened? There was just as many guys as there were girls. But the thing is, the girls started feeling bad in it because the guys were able to cook better than them. Because guys paid attention and the guys actually took all of that. Home ec. Home economics. In other words, learning how to sew, learning how to cook, learning how to fold, that sort of shit. You know, the basic stuff of being an adult. Like if you were living alone, the stuff that you would have to do to keep your house up and running. See, me, I did good at it because I was in Boy Scouts. I had already learned all those skills. You tend to learn all those skills in Boy Scouts just naturally. You learn how to cook. You learn how to cook under the harshest fucking conditions imaginable. You learn how to sew. You learn how to mend torn clothing. You learn how to fold your clothes effectively to take up the least amount of fucking space. You learn how to plan ahead. You learn how to clean shit properly. A lot of people sit there and go, oh, Boy Scouts, what a fucking joke. It's all like, no, you actually learn a lot of very good skills in Boy Scouts. And then you've got these girls that are sitting there and wanting to get into Boy Scouts. Well, why is that? Well, because Boy Scouts is more interesting. With Girl Scouts, they focus heavily on very boring shit. Or if they even, in the instances where they focus on the same shit as Boy Scouts, they do it in the most boring way possible. Because people want a fucking challenge. Now, am I sitting there and saying let girls into Boy Scouts? Oh, hell no. We're going to have a lot of unwanted teen pregnancies. Let's just be honest. Oh, and Zeitgeist, I love it when people sit there and say, you're just complaining. Oh, I love it. Because at that point, I'm all like, well, you're sitting here and saying that I'm just complaining. You're not addressing what I'm, quote unquote, just complaining about. You're complaining about me complaining. You're not taking a look at what I'm bringing up and saying, well, you know, he's got a good point. Or if you think that I don't have a good point and you think you have an answer to it, do it. Go ahead. Prove me wrong. I'm welcome to see that. But don't sit there and say, well, I know this person who knew this person who knew this person, and it wasn't like that for them. Fuck you. Even if what you're saying is true, one fucking story does not make it representative of everyone's experience. Period. End of story. Like, I've had people sit there and say that I'm just bitching and complaining when I sit there and I bring up the fact that there are no male shelters in the U.S. There's no male domestic abuse shelters. None. But we have over 2,000 female ones that refuse to let men in. That will even sit there, and if a woman comes in and she has a son, will force the son to go back with the supposed abuser. And they say I'm just complaining. Even though right there I'm showing that active damage is being done. Passive damage is being done. There's no good being done there. Then you've got the whole situation of, you know, that woman who started up the women's shelters over in Europe and then moved to the U.S. because she was receiving death threats to her family. When she sat there and mentioned that most of the women that came in were more abusive than what they were saying their spouses were. It was almost like she recognized and put into words an inconvenient truth. But no, I'm just complaining, right? Doesn't matter if someone who has a vested interest in it goes, yeah, no, this isn't exactly right. No, that doesn't matter. It's just me complaining. I got no basis on it, even though study after study after study has shown it. But hey. Oh, I've actually seen that, RP. RP says, I know a 60-year-old woman that was trying to pick up guys at bars. Yeah, I've seen that happen several times. Oh, yeah, no. Whenever you actually have a poll where a large group of females will go ahead and take part in it, and, you know, ask them what they would prefer to do, if they would prefer to be like a CEO of a company or own their own business or, you know, be out there working in a successful career or something like that, or be a stay-at-home mom. The vast majority of them will sit there and say that they would rather be a stay-at-home mom. Why? Because the job, for one, can be more rewarding, at least emotionally. You know, raising a child is a pretty rewarding fucking thing. Let's be honest. I mean, at that point, you're helping shape a young mind. You're helping a young person grow into an adult. I think that would be pretty fucking rewarding. Wouldn't you? I mean, hell, at that point, you've got a living legacy going on. But the thing is they want to go ahead and do that, but feminists do not want that because they don't like gender roles. Because here's the thing, let's be fucking honest. The vast majority of the most hardcore, staunch feminists, take one look at them. Take a good, long, hard look. You will notice several things. Now, not all these will apply all at the same time in all cases, but usually the majority of them will apply to each individual. One, they're fugly as fuck. All right? Two, they tend to be socially awkward and have a really difficult time knowing what a guy's thinking. Three, they tend to be narcissistic to the nth degree. They tend to only give a fuck about what they want. If you bring up what you want, then they'll sit there and come up with any fucking excuse to not give you what you want and to gain something extra that they want. Four, they tend to have a lot of bad experiences with men in the past because men were not afraid to put them in their place, to keep them in check, that weren't afraid to tell them that the world and the universe does not revolve around them. Five, when you look into their eyes, you can see a level of misery that can only be found in the eyes of a man who has freshly been hit by a divorce that has gone as wrong as it can possibly go. Out of those five things, with any of these hyper staunch feminists, at the very least, three of those things are going to apply to each one. Period. End of story. The last one is in the vast majority of them. And actually, Terror Battle, if you actually look back at the history of feminism, one of their most prominent books was actually written by a lesbian that absolutely hated men to the point to where she even hated women who slept with men. She called us, I think it was abominations. She called heterosexual couples abominations and said that they somehow went against nature. Oh, and Red Dragon, women have been using boobs as weapons against guy for years. I honestly think boobs were given to women as a weapon by nature. Going, yeah, you're going to need these. You're going to need these cheap devices to even stand a chance. It's all right, because nature sat there and looked and went, let's see, I made men strong, aggressive, natural hunters, natural gatherers, logical thinkers. What the fuck was I thinking? But, yeah, it's just one of those situations now where when you actually take a look at the current situation that we're in, yeah, feminism's done quite a bit of damage. I'll admit that. And I don't defend feminism. In fact, feminism, even at the beginning, was never about women's rights. It never was. That was just one thing that they co-opted, and they figured that that went so well for them that they were going to start co-opting everything else. Hence, intersectional feminism now. So now you have feminists sitting there and talking about race issues. What the fuck does race issues have to do with feminism? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The only things that should have to do with feminism is the rights of women, maybe working conditions for women, which I think would be under the rights of women. But anywho. And any laws that might be directly against women. That's it. But there are no laws directly against women. As far as rights are concerned, it's very easy to prove that women have superior rights to men. When it comes to workplaces bend over backwards to make women happy. So they have nothing to bitch about. So they have to bitch about this other shit to try to make themselves relevant. They have to sit there and say, oh, because there's race issues, then that means it's issues against women. All right. On a technical level, yeah, you know, if there's a race issue, then, you know, any female in that race is being affected by it. So, yeah, it's a woman's issue in that regard, but it's also a male issue. So feminism really doesn't need to be involved there. In fact, anytime you mix feminism with solution, you end up getting part of a solution and then a whole bunch more problems for men. Or men being worse off in general in the situation. Oh, and don't even get me started on the whole mansplaining thing, Terror Battle. Holy shit. I fucking hate that. I hate it when someone's saying, oh, you're trying to whitewash something. You're trying to mansplain something. You're trying to fuck off. Just because I'm a man and I can sit there and logically explain what you're experiencing does not mean that I'm trying to downplay it. But I can give you the reasons why it's going on. So maybe in the future you can fucking avoid it. It's called being an adult. That's learning from your past experiences. If you walk up to someone, slap them in the face, and they punch you in the face, you don't sit there and say, oh, it's just because that person hates women. You might want to go ahead and say, well, I did go up and hit them first, so maybe I kind of deserved that. Maybe that's a typical reaction to this situation. Oh, and then you've got the whole thing. I actually one time against a feminist, I'm like, stop women-splaining. Oh, she fucking lost it. Because we were talking about the whole man-spreading thing. And I was all like, look, when it's a hot day and you're feeling kind of gross and you spread it out to let it breathe a bit. And then she tried to do the whole, well, what about my boobs? You don't see me walking around spreading out my arms. I'm like, yeah, but your boobs are situated very differently to your arms. So stop women-splaining. Holy shit, she fucking lost it. It was almost like, you know, if someone sits there, throws out the N-word, and then a black person comes around the corner. That's our word. That's our word. It's the same fucking thing. No, it's nobody's word. How about this? You don't like the fucking word. Don't sit there and say it's your word. How about that? How about just say, don't use that word? Fair enough. But the fact is at this point, you've got these major corporations that are backing these ludicrous mentalities. And people are getting so sick and tired of it constantly being shoved down their throat. They don't want to go onto YouTube, and the only channels that are suggested to them are women sitting there telling them how bad, you know, how bad men are. Or how bad white people are. They don't want that shit. Just like with video games, people want their escapes. They don't want to deal with the day-to-day bullshit. They want to be able to take a step back every once in a while and just let themselves get absorbed in some fantasy. But the fact of the matter is at this point, we're now looking at a little bit of a paradigm shift. People are now starting to actively avoid they tend to actively avoid that level of censorship. People want to hear everyone's opinions nowadays. And I'm not saying that everyone does, but I'm saying, like, as far as general population, a lot of people are open to a conversation. They have legitimate questions and they want them to be answered, not in some snarky way, not in some demeaning way or something like that. They just want these questions answered. Because a lot of the shit going on nowadays, when you look at it, unless you've been involved in it from the beginning, makes no fucking sense. It's like coming into a movie series on like the 5th movie out of 10 and being expected to know what all the characters are in their entire histories. It's like it doesn't work that way. And then there's some people that just want to go on and just find something that's entertaining. Maybe something that mirrors their opinions that they're too afraid to let out in general public because they're afraid of getting a label placed on them. I mean, there's a lot of shit that's going on right now. And when companies like Google try to censor that shit, people are going to go elsewhere. They will find a way to get to it, no matter what. That's what's going on here. People are now starting to revolt against places like Google. People are starting to watch videos where people are ripping YouTube a new one on YouTube itself for a reason. They like seeing people standing up and saying something. And I've noticed that the people that tend to be the most popular tend to be the ones that try to see it from the other side. But even if you can see where the other side's coming from, doesn't mean you have to agree with them. It just means you understand where they're coming from. And, best case scenario, you might be able to find some middle ground. Maybe find some solution that works for everybody. Or at least for the vast majority of people. Or you understand where they're coming from, so you know where to hit them the hardest. Either way, it's beneficial. And we're starting to see more and more places starting to look at, these SJWs and go, oh, you want to go ahead and censor people on this platform? Well, we're going to go ahead. We're going to make our own platform. It's going to grow slowly, but the harder you push, the more we're going to grow. You can look at those things and sit there and see what level social justice is failing at. You can see how badly it's failing by just watching this booming growth in these alternative social media websites. People are sick and tired of having to be force-fed the same narrative day in, day out, year after year. People are sick and tired of being told that they're a piece of shit just based off of what they are. That they deserve to be punished for having been born. So of course people are going to try to get away from that shit. When you're constantly treating people like shit, they're not going to keep listening to you. That's why I'm sitting here and saying, I'm like, look, they're going to have this massive fucking flicker of activity. You're going to have this small little boom in power, and then social justice is just going to peter out and die. And feminism is going to go with it because it is so steeped in it now, it can't separate itself from it. Feminists have been trying to separate themselves from social justice warriors for a while now. I've seen it happen on multiple fucking channels. I've seen it happen on multiple discussion threads. Feminists are trying to sit there and separate themselves from social justice because they can see what's fucking happening. But feminism and social justice have been in bed for so long that they're fused at the hip now. So when social justice goes down, so does feminism. I'm not saying that there's not going to be some little part of it that breaks off and goes off, hides in a corner, and starts to grow again. I'm not saying that. But I'm pretty fucking sure feminism has been growing for a long time. A lot longer than we know. And it's going to be a repeating cycle. We just find ourselves at the end of the first cycle. But if it takes that fucking long for us to get to this point, as soon as I see it gone, it's all like, sweet, we have a few thousand years before this rears its ugly head again. Oh yeah, but L, the thing is in Fast and Furious with the female antagonist, the thing is women want more women in media, but they don't count any of the ones that are evil. They don't count any of the ones that are actively just letting female nature go to town. The ones that are portraying women in a negative light, quote unquote. Thing is, I think a lot of the time in a lot of these movies, the female villains portray women in a much more accurate way than anyone else. I mean, go ahead and let's take a look at the story of Snow White. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's have some fun here. All right. The queen got jealous of the princess because the princess was youthful, beautiful, and even though she tried to keep her in tattered rags and that sort of thing, her neoteny showed through, and the prince went swing. So what does the queen do? Tries to sit there and hire a man to do her dirty work, go out and kill this girl. Well, this girl's neoteny was so fucking great that the man couldn't fucking do it. So what does she do? She goes back to the typical female way of killing, and that is poisoning. In what way did that fucking movie portray women in more of a negative light than nature itself does? Where did it get female nature wrong? Hell, even the princess, who was supposed to be this royal spoiled brat, basically, understood that her crashing in someone else's home meant she had to work for her stay. And so what did she do? She cooked and she cleaned. There are some sub-stories where it gets a little bit more interesting than that, but that's not for this channel right now. But it was almost like, at that point, the writers actually had an idea of how the dichotomy between men and women work. It was almost like they recognized that men have their roles, women have their roles when it comes to a functioning society. But the thing is if you go ahead and you look at all this media during this major boom in feminism, it was almost like the media at that point, the people that were in there, were sitting there and trying to go, no, this is how it's supposed to go. It's seen cooking and cleaning is seen as evil is seen as evil in most children's books nowadays. Look at the older children's books. It actually wasn't. That's modern shit. That's the reason why whenever you see an old story coming into the movie sphere now, it's always a quote-unquote readaptation. The reason why it's being adapted is because of the fact that if they were to tell the story the original fucking way, people would look at that and go, that's a much more believable story than anything else that's coming out. Holy crap. And people would love it. But no, they have to sit there. They have to change male characters to female characters to male characters. They have to swap all this shit around. They have to throw in their political bullshit. They have to do all that fucking crap. They can't just tell the fucking story how it was meant to be told by the original fucking author. They have to pervert it to the point of bastardization. And then they wonder why people sit there and look at Hollywood and go, you guys really fucking suck at this, don't you? But like I said, with the story of Snow White, female nature put on full display in both arenas. Male nature put on display in both arenas. Oh yeah, I remember that Terror Battle. And then I also remember them sitting there and talking about oh, what was it? The one from the latest Disney one from Hawaii, where they were talking about finally a non-white strong female finally a strong female royal protagonist. And then all of a sudden, you know, the memes came out where it had all the Disney princesses sitting there going, really, what the fuck? You know, like, wait a minute. The one that got me the most was fucking Mulan. Oh my god, that was amazing. But the thing is we're now seeing this homogenization being actively fought against by people. And I heard about the whole all-female Lord of the Flies. I haven't really watched too much on that. I'm definitely not going to be seeing that movie. Anytime they sit there and proudly broadcast all female cast or all male cast or anything like that, I'm like, yeah, no, go fuck yourselves. But it's now getting to the point where when people decide that they're sick and tired of it, they're going to go to this alternate media. That's the reason why, you know, these little online miniseries are getting so much traction, getting so much attention. And the major media companies hate it because they're so in bed with social justice, they can't make that stuff. Because if they were to make that stuff, they'll sit there and take lawsuits and all that sort of shit. Whereas these smaller groups can get away with actually telling realistic style stories, making believable characters that actually have a character arc to them, that might actually have some level of humanity and not be this feminism, social justice warrior approved, homogenized character. That might actually have some fucking faults and actually get over them during the entire system. that's one thing that feminism can't abide by is people being dissident. But again, that's the same thing with any ideology. It's not going to accept dissonance. It's going to sit there and make absolutely certain that you're towing the line, that you're not, you know, rocking the boat, all that sort of shit. But people get sick and tired of it. And eventually they'll move on to somewhere that doesn't have that. That's the reason why every ideology out there that's gone basically authoritarian is not going to last for very long. It's always a flash in the pan. Because people, at that point, it pulls them out of reality. They even, on a subconscious level, recognize that this is not indicative of reality. The best fantasy movies and games and books and all that sort of thing have had at least some level of possibility of reality applying. I mean, at the very least, some level, you know? Maybe not all of it, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, fantasy is fantasy. But it makes it at least interesting. You know, like with the Matrix thing. Is it heavily unlikely? Yeah. But the thing is we don't know the limits of technology and where it's going to go. We have no idea about it. But the thing is there's at least a level of possibility there. To some degree. And I find it absolutely fascinating. But the thing is if something is just outright over-the-top fantasy, then it needs to be outright over-the-top fantasy. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to make these fantasy stories seem to be realistic when they're not making it any more realistic. I'm sorry, a woman taking on 10 armed men while she's completely unarmed and coming out without a fucking scratch? No. Don't sit there and say, oh yeah, a woman can actually do this. Don't do that. That's not gonna fucking happen. But at the same time, they're sitting there and trying to constantly take digs at almost 50% of the population. I mean, go ahead, take a look at the media during the time of the uprise of feminism, the big one here in America, right? You had series that were showing that both men and women had faults, and that we all had to work against those faults and had to find ways around them and that sort of thing. That none of us are perfect. Well, nowadays, take a look at it. In sitcoms, the man doesn't like the stereotypical man in those is going to be a blithering idiot with a hyper intelligent, hyper sexy wife that always has the answers to everything and can basically do no wrong. And if she does do wrong, they even sit there and even kind of jab you in the ribs even harder by when someone calling that woman out, all of a sudden their life becomes a living fucking hell. They always have it where the kids absolutely don't respect the father. or any level of authority that he has in the house, even though he's the one out there making the money, coming home, and that sort of thing. And then they're all expecting him to bend to their fucking wishes. That is the best portrayal of men that we have nowadays, really. Other than like action movies where the guy is actually allowed to be a fucking hero. But if you look at the vast majority of modern day media, guess what? Men get a raw deal. But what media does companies like Google put right out front and center? That media. Even if something else is infinitely more popular, they're going to sit there, they're going to put that other media out there, and they'll sit there and say, oh, well, we thought it needed a PR bump or whatever, you know, if they're called out on it. But then on the opposite side of the coin, when media that actually portrays at least some level of realism compared to our everyday lives needs a little bit of a PR bump, and people are sitting there and saying, well, why aren't you doing this? Oh, well, because it's not popular and we're about making money. It's not up to us to morally grandstand. And people are seeing this pattern. And you guys are right. You know, it's all like women will sit there and complain about men being men, and if a man holds open a door for them, or, you know, sits there and says, no, I'm paying for the meal, you know, whatever, whatnot, they'll sit there and bitch and complain, and, you know, call him a chauvinistic pig. And so he goes ahead and says, oh, fuck you, and then fucks off to somewhere else, find some woman that actually, you know, understands the situation, and is all like, yeah, okay, you know, I'm going to go ahead and go with nature. And then when these women get older and they end up hitting the wall, then they sit there and go, oh, we're all the good men. Why are no men interested in me? It's all like, because you're a flaming fucking cunt. You practiced at it and became a master of it. Guys don't want that. Remember, it's you women that want to be treated like shit every once in a while, not guys. Jesus Christ. But it's just one of those situations nowadays where you're just going to see problem after problem after problem with it. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And eventually, women are going to catch on. And they're going to start using these movies as what they should be. Guides on what not to do with a man. Guides on how to lose a guy. But it's going to be a while until we hit that point. It's going to be a long time, in fact. Because feminism has invaded our schooling systems. And now it's all like, yeah, we can't just sit there and only have schooling, because there's that pesky internet thing that might go ahead and call us out. So we got to go ahead and we got to get that in check too. And so what do? They take over companies like Google. They take over internet companies and then sit there and say, oh, well, we should be able to censor whoever we want by restricting their broadband. Then you got these little fucking blue pill simp pile of shit, limp dick wastes of fucking flesh that sit there and go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, you can go ahead and censor someone by restricting the bandwidth. Because that's not actually censorship, is it? It's still there. People can access it. They just have to wait for 3 days for the page to load. And people are getting sick of it. Then you get angry assholes like me that sit there and go, you know what? Fuck the consequences. And come out and say it. And all of a sudden people are so shocked. People are all like, oh my God, how can someone say that? Is he allowed to say that? No, I'm not allowed to say that. That's the reason why I'm saying it. Because it's a fucking travesty that I'm not allowed to fucking say it. But the more people stand up and start calling this shit out, the better off we're all going to be. Because the more people we have standing up and saying something about this, the more people they have to deal with, and the more people they have to silence. And the more people they have to silence, the higher the chance of them silencing someone that'll have an alternative voice at some point that'll be able to talk about it and bring all this shit to light. And that's the reason why I'm happy as fuck that Google's losing its shit. That it's losing its traction. That its popularity is plummeting. Let's see. Elle says, did you see the studies that show women are more likely to use direct aggression in private where other people cannot see them and are more likely to use indirect aggression in public to men? Yeah, actually I did see that study. Someone actually brought it up, but I actually don't have the link to the study anymore. I had some computer issues that ended up happening, and yeah, I ended up losing a bunch of files because they ended up getting corrupted. But yeah, it actually it makes sense. I mean, the thing is just think about it. Anytime you've had an interaction with a woman, at what point has it ever not been dependent on if other people were around or not? Like how they act. At what point has that been true? Never. Women act differently while in public than they do in private. I mean, men do the same thing. You know, men also have that as well. Don't get me wrong. But the thing is women do it for very different reasons. Men do it so that they can go ahead and try to protect themselves from physical aggression from other men or from women who might be around. Women do it because they need to be able to perpetually play the victim. And if they're sitting there actively beating the shit out of a guy, just out of nowhere, just fucking going off because the guy said one thing that they dislike, well, it's very difficult at that point for them to play the victim, isn't it? So, of course, at that point, they're going to go ahead and act passive-aggressively, trying to make the guy look like the asshole. So it makes sense. But I actually end up, I'm having to shut down the stream. I gotta go, guys. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and I'll conclude this with this one thing. When I'm sitting here and saying that Google is losing its traction, I'm talking about its popularity and people actually trusting it. Google's starting to go down the same path that CNN did. And basically what it is they're sitting there, they're pushing forward false narratives, they're pushing forward false information, and then whenever someone brings up actual information and they're called out on it and they can't really get away from it, they'll sit there and go, oh, yeah, well, whatever. That's basically what's going on here. But yeah, and as they do that, people are going to trust them less and less and less. They're going to go ahead and just say, you know what, fuck you, we'll go somewhere else. Even if they offer a slightly less convenient service, at least they're reliable. That's how social economies work. And right now, as far as the social economy is concerned, Google is going bankrupt. So, yeah, I just find it interesting, and I'm loving watching Google sit there and squirm trying to figure out how it gets out of this little fucking predicament it's gotten itself into. So, have yourselves a great day. I'll talk to y'all later. Stay free. Stay MGTOW. Peace.